Changed smell dog food to smell something sugary, and Annie smiles to knowing smiles to fit American cultural context. Replace the literal translation of the Chinese idiom, light a lantern in a latrine, with a natural English equivalent. Do you have a death wish? Remove the reference to Liu Ban, a Chinese historical figure unknown to the American character Tank, and replace it with a culturally appropriate analogy, teaching a fish to swim, to match the dialogue flow. Changed I reflect it to I bounce it back for natural childish banter. Changed little golden tortoise to golden boy. General. Fixed minor punctuation and spacing errors. Ethan Ford hung up the phone. Oh my God, Ethan, your pickup lines are way too cheesy. Jason York grimaced, looking physically pained. Ethan, thick-skinned as ever, didn't care. He laughed. Really? I didn't think so. We all think it's cheesy. The three friends chimed in unison. Hey, that's just because you guys don't understand romance. You'll get it when you actually get girlfriends. Ethan lectured with the air of an experienced veteran. Kevin Keg O'Connor asked doubtfully, does that stuff actually work? It definitely works when you're chasing girls, Ethan said with a straight face. Really? Really? Teach me, Ethan. Keg exclaimed excitedly. Ethan coughed twice, clearing his throat. This is an advanced technique. I'll teach you slowly later. I'm gonna go buy something to eat first. Keg grinned like a sycophant. Hee deal. Ethan, I'll treat you to some spicy jerky. My treat. In the girls' dorm, Grace Miller hung up the phone and hurriedly wiped the water off her desk. She had just been choked up by Ethan's cheesy lines while drinking water. Huh, Grace, Ethan's pretty romantic, isn't he? Chloe Jones teased from his side. Grace blushed and shot her a glance. You call that romantic? Chloe, hurry up and help me with my eyeliner. We're running out of time. Okay, don't rush. We have 2.5 hours left. Plenty of time. What's the rush? Oh, I get it. You're in a hurry to see your lover boy, Chloe said as she took out an eyeliner pencil and began to carefully apply it. Next to them, Dana was looking in the mirror and laughed. If you ask me, our Grace is a natural beauty. She looks great even without makeup. Is the title of Illinois Tech's top beauty just for show? She doesn't need a pilot on like us. Grace pouted. This is the first big event I'm attending in college. Of course I have to take it seriously. All right, I won't put on too much heavy makeup. A light touch is best. Too much would cover up your natural beauty. Chloe held Grace's chin with one hand, carefully examining her masterpiece. Grace said shyly, what are you saying? You're making me embarrassed with all these compliments. But since you're so good at complimenting, keep it coming. Chloe. Grace, where did your skin get so thick? Needless to say, you definitely caught it from Ethan. Grace left her seat to get changed. Grace, what are you planning to wear? Chloe asked curiously. The sailor dress. How do you think this navy and white one looks with white shoes? Grace held up the clothes to compare. No way. You have such beautiful makeup on. And you're going to wear casual sneakers? That doesn't match at all. Chloe shook her head repeatedly. Does it really not match? I thought it was okay. Grace scratched her head. She didn't have high demands for fashion. Comfort was her main priority. No. I'll lend you a pair of shoes. You can wear mine. We're the same size. Chloe turned around and pulled a box out from under her bed. I bought these extra. They don't match my outfit today, but they'll go perfectly with yours. Take a look. Grace smiled sweetly. Thanks, Chloe. She took the box happily, opened it, and froze. Inside was a pair of beautiful black leather pumps, but they had heels, and it looked like a good 2-inch heel. Tee this high? I've never worn heels before. Grace said, stunned. This will make you look taller, make your figure look better, and your legs look longer. It's a perfect match for your navy sailor dress. Go try it on. Chloe urged with a smile. Okay then, I'll go try it. Grace agreed, but she felt a little apprehensive. She had never worn high heels before and didn't know if she could handle them. She went into the bathroom to change. Chloe, Dana, and Sue were already ready. They were just waiting for Grace. Chloe, you look beautiful today too. Looks like someone's heart is fluttering tonight. Dana looked her up and down, teasing. Chloe was wearing a pink mini dress with a bow on the chest, her long hair flowing. She looked youthful and lovely. Of course. Who knows? Maybe I'll meet my Prince Charming today. I want it in my single life too. Okay. Chloe flipped her hair seductively. If you find him, you have to tell me. I'll help you vet him. Dana gesupt. Chloe adjusted her dress and laughed. No problem. Just wait for me to shine. Just as she finished speaking, there was a noise from the bathroom, and the door opened. Grace stood at the door in a navy blue and white sailor-style dress. Her beautiful face, tall and slender figure, and those incredibly eye-catching long legs. Every inch of her seemed carefully sculpted by God, breathtakingly perfect. Her large, watery eyes sparkled as she looked around. She radiated a fresh, tender aura, like a peach just before it fully ripens, sweet, tart, and delectable. Chloe, Dana, and Sue stared at Grace in shock, stunned speechless by her beauty. "Oh my God, I take back what I just said. Grace, Grace, you are too beautiful," Chloe exclaimed, walking over quickly to look her up and down. "Yeah, simply goddess level. This outfit suits you perfectly." Surprised endlessly. Dana opened her mouth and stated decisively, "Natural beauty is natural beauty. Someone beautiful looks good in anything. Grace, if you go to the dance, you'll definitely charm a huge crowd of guys." Grace blushed at their praise and said shyly, "Is it really that good?" "Of course, absolutely. Trust me, when Ethan sees you, his eyes are going to pop out of his head." Chloe said seriously, Enough talk, let's go." Grace smiled sweetly. "Okay, let's go." Chloe nodded. She turned and took 2 steps, but didn't hear Grace following. She looked back and saw Grace walking very carefully, taking tiny steps. Grace, you don't know how to walk in heels?" Chloe asked, puzzled. "Who says I don't? I just haven't worn them in a long time, so I'm a little unaccustomed. I'll get used to it. It's a piece of cake for me." Grace insisted stubbornly, but after taking 2 steps forward, she stumbled. Chloe's mouth twitched. Looks like Grace really doesn't know how to wear them. "Grace, how about I help you walk for a bit until you get used to it?" Grace waved her hand to refuse, confident. No need to help. I can do it. It's just slightly higher heels. Piece of cake." Can you really do it?" Chloe worried. Grace nodded heavily and said seriously, "Don't worry, I got this. Forget walking, I can even run." With that, Grace lifted her leg to run, wanting to show them her adaptability. The next moment, thud, Grace fell flat on her face. Chloe, if Grace goes dancing like this, is she going to be okay? An hour later, Ethan Ford was leaning against a wall, eating a rocket pop, holding a bag full of snacks in his other hand. He looked toward the gym entrance, muttering to himself, "Grace's little bit of time is really a whole lot of time." Just then, Jason Yerk walked by with several girls. "Hey, Ethan, still waiting for the sister-in-law?" Jason greeted him. "Yeah," Ethan replied casually, licking his popsicle. Well, take your time waiting. I'm going to show the ladies from the other schools around the venue first." Jason proudly showed off the group of girls behind him to Ethan. Among them were Lily Chow and Lucy Yates. Lily suddenly stepped forward, extending her hand generously toward Ethan with a charming smile. Ethan, we meet again." Today, Lily was wearing a tight black evening dress. Her figure was curvy, with a magnificent landscape, and not just generally magnificent, at least a 36D. Out of politeness, Ethan shook her hand and smiled faintly. "Hello." He didn't say anything else, implying he didn't want to chat. But Lily seemed to miss the hint. Instead, she actively struck up a conversation. "If you have time now, Ethan, could you show us around? If it's okay, could you introduce us to some fun places near Illinois Tech? We plan to hang out nearby after the dance, but we're not familiar with the area. Right, Lucy?" Lily finished speaking and looked back at Lucy Yates, giving her a signal. Lucy paused, then shuffled forward 2 steps. She had shoulder-length hair, wore a butterfly headband, and was dressed in a blue one-piece dress. She looked youthful and lovely, attracting attention. Many guys around were stealing glances at her. "Ethan, could we trouble you?" Lucy asked timidly, her watery eyes looking at Ethan. Ethan bit off a chunk of the rocket pop, the cold, sweet ice sliding down his throat. "No." His tone was icy, giving off a feeling of pushing people 1,000 miles away. Everyone present was stunned by a single word. That rejection was too absolute. Lily was full of shock. She hadn't expected Ethan to refuse so bluntly, leaving no room for negotiation, not even saving a little face. After her shock, Lucy looked a bit disappointed. Is that so? Since you don't have time, Ethan, I won't force it." With that, she took Lily and the other girls and left. "Who is that guy? He's so cold." "Yeah, he seems hard to get along with. Are a lot of guys at Illinois Tech like that?" "I don't know, but I don't want to talk to him again." The group of girls chattered and complained as they walked away. Ethan heard them, but didn't take it to heart at all, eating his popsicle alone. Jason's face fell. He leaned in closer. "Ethan, bro, even if you don't want to hang out with people, you don't have to be so cold, right? How are you going to make friends like that?" Ethan glanced at him sideways and laughed. "When did I say I wanted to be friends with them?" In his heart, he just wanted them to stay away from him, especially Lucy Yates. Jason was stunned. Okay, but let me ask one thing, Ethan. Do you have a grudge against someone in that group?" Ethan rolled his eyes at him and scolded laughingly. "No grudge, no grievance. But can you stop asking? Otherwise, I'm gonna kick you in next week. Jason quickly jumped away, grinning. Hey, I want to ask. You keep waiting for the sister-in-law. I'm off to gallop across the plains. Ethan watched Jason leave and shook his head. That kid. Hope he doesn't get bucked off the horse. Under the flashing colored lights, there were two sneaky figures in the crowd. Target spotted, target spotted. Over. But there's only one target. The other target hasn't appeared yet. Over. Luke Brooks used a rolled-up magazine as a telescope, staring at Ethan. Suddenly, an eye appeared in his field of vision. Luke, what are you doing? Do you know you look like a pervert right now? Ryan Yates said speechlessly. How did he get stuck with such a delusional teammate? Luke took down the magazine, only then realizing that people around them were casting weird looks, especially the girls who were steering clear of him. Hey, don't worry about that. Now that the target has appeared, we have to prepare Plan A. Luke leaned in and whispered with a devious grin. Plan A? Isn't that a bit too much? Ryan hesitated. Luke put an arm around his shoulder and said solemnly, if you're not ruthless, you can't stand firm. For the girl you like, what is this? Today is the day of our strategic strike, our strategic victory. As long as we execute the pre-battle mobilization well, we will definitely succeed in ascending the throne. Oh no, in reclaiming Grace. Encouraged by this speech, Ryan also mustered up his courage. Okay, you're right. Let's execute Plan A. But I haven't prepared that thing yet. Hey, I'm already prepared. Luke pulled a small bottle out of his pocket, smiling proudly. As long as we mix this in his juice or drink, I guarantee he'll shit his pants. And I just clogged the toilets. The maintenance staff is working on unblocking them. When the time comes, there's gonna be a good show. Luke shook the medicine bottle, looking smug and even a little sinister. Ryan swallowed hard with difficulty. If Ethan actually got hit with this, he might be socially dead at Illinois Tech forever. This move was too ruthless. Luke, I've discovered you really have the potential to be a villain. Seriously, Ryan said earnestly. Luke was stunned. What? What did you say? You said I'm a villain? Impossible. I am Grace's Prince Charming. That Ethan guy abducted my princess with sweet talk. I'm saving Grace from a sea of suffering. Of course, sometimes you have to use certain methods. Hearing this, Ryan immediately objected. What Prince Charming? I don't acknowledge that. Doesn't matter if you don't acknowledge it. Grace is mine. No, she's mine. Mina. FCK. Draw your sword. Bring it on. Let's duel. For a moment, the two argued, swords drawn and bows bent, looking like they were about to fight. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the gym entrance. The two looked over in unison and instantly froze. At the entrance of the gym, Grace was slowly stepping inside, supported by Chloe. Grace was wearing a navy blue and white sailor-style dress, her long, flowing black hair cascading down. Her figure was tall and slender, curvy in all the right places. Her snow-white skin seemed to emit a soft glow under the lights, making her look as if she were shrouded in a holy radiance, like an angel. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. Especially those long legs sculpted by God, shapely, straight, and flawless. Incredibly eye-catching. At this moment, in the open space at the gym entrance, every guy's eyes were focused on Grace, full of awe, their eyes nearly popping out. Just a moment later, the waists of some guys with girlfriends were twisted 360 degrees, and cries of pain rose and fell. Grace! So beautiful! Luke watched from afar, looking like a total creep, drool practically dripping from the corner of his mouth. Yeah, truly the top campus beauty, my forever goddess. Ryan had the same expression. Luke wiped his mouth and said seriously, Comrade Ryan, let's call a truce for now. Let's take out that Ethan guy beside Grace first, and then we'll compete fairly. Ryan nodded. Okay, I agree. If it wasn't for that Ethan kid, I'd be her date today. Luke clenched his fist, a flash of unwillingness in his eyes. Since childhood, he had been the object of his classmates' envy. He had a superior family background, good grades, and the prospect of studying abroad. A perfect start to life. He just didn't expect that after returning to the country, his home base would be stolen. Grace had fallen into Ethan's hands. This made him incredibly unhappy, and he secretly swore to win Grace back. If it wasn't for that Ethan kid, Grace and I might be together right now. Ryan sighed with emotion. The two suddenly looked at each other, seeming to share a feeling of mutual pity. Because of Ethan, these two rivals had ended up on the same front line. Look, where's Grace going? Ryan turned his head and saw Grace walking toward the side of the gym. Luke quickly ran a few steps forward and finally saw where Grace was heading. He saw Grace stumble toward Ethan and dive headfirst in his arms. The two of them, witnessing this scene, felt like they had been struck by lightning. They stood frozen on the spot. Oh no! Almost simultaneously, they grabbed their hair and slumped to the ground. Snowflakes drifting, the north wind whistling, the world a vast expanse of white. Pain. It was just too painful. Don't do it, Grace. Luke shouted with immense sorrow. This yell caused the surrounding students to look sideways, staring at him, as if he were an idiot. On the other side, Ethan happily picked Grace up and then gently set her down, laughing. TSK, TSK, Princess Grace is really beautiful today. Am I only beautiful today? Grace raised her chin coquettishly. Ethan patted her head, his eyes full of doting affection. Okay, my Grace is beautiful every day. Today she is especially beautiful. That's more like it. Grace smiled sweetly and affectionately hugged his arm, but she stumbled and almost fell. Ethan noticed something was off. He looked down at her feet and asked in surprise, Chem, you're actually wearing high heels. In his impression, Grace had never worn shoes like that, usually sticking to sneakers or casual shoes. How is it? Nice, right? Chloe lent them to me. She said wearing them gives me a ladylike vibe. Grace showed off the shoes and then struck a ladylike pose. Ladylike? Ethan's mouth twitched. Did that word have anything to do with her? Yeah. What? Are you saying I'm not a lady? Grace puffed up her cheeks and questioned him. A lady? You are the most ladylike. Ethan quickly raised his hands and surrendered. That's better. Good boy. Grace smiled and pinched his cheek. Chloe teased from his side. Oh my, who was just cursing up a storm a minute ago? How come as soon as she gets in front of a certain someone, she suddenly turns into a lady? Ew, why does it smell so sugary in here? It's suffocating. Girls, let's go hang out somewhere else. Too much PDA here, I'm gonna be sick. Dana and Sue both laughed. Okay, let's go, Grace. You guys take your time, Dana teased, and then the three of them left. Grace's pretty face blushed, and she spat. Stinky Ethan, don't listen to them. They just love to joke. They aren't wrong. We can take our time. Playing, Ethan winked, giving a weird, suggestive laugh. Grace's cheeks turned even redder. She pinched the soft flesh at his waist and scolded. Even you aren't being serious now. Ethan yelped in pain, then took a rocket pop out of the snack bag and handed it to her, smiling. Here, eat this. Rocket pop. Grace's expression changed instantly. She shouted excitedly, snatched the popsicle, and rejoiced like a child. Ethan smiled. Grace had zero resistance to rocket pops. As the time for the dance approached, more and more people filled the gym. Amidst the rhythmic music, everyone was happily dancing, engaging in light social dances, formally opening the door to college life for the freshmen. At this moment, a male host from the student council, wearing a white shirt and glasses, walked to the front of the dance floor. Good evening, fellow students. With the care of the university leadership, the freshman welcome dance organized by our student council is officially beginning. Here, on behalf of the student council, I would like to welcome the new students. Welcome to Illinois Tech, and we welcome you to actively join the student council. I wish you all a joyful time at school. All right, I won't say any more nonsense. Now, let's dance to our heart's content. As the host finished speaking, the music volume increased, and a cheerful quick-step tune began to play. The students cheered. At this time, urged by their teacher, Ms. Joy, Ethan and Grace walked to the front of the dance floor, preparing to lead the dance. A spotlight hit them, and for a moment, they became the focus of the entire venue. Everyone was waiting for the two to start leading. Under the gaze of countless eyes, Grace couldn't help but feel nervous, her heart rate accelerating. Ethan, I'm a little nervous. Ethan held her hand and comforted her softly. Deep breaths. Follow my rhythm. With that, Ethan led her into the social dance, following the music. Ethan's moves were standard and solid, but Grace's movements were a bit stiff and unstable. There was a move where the two separated and Grace had to spin outward. Suddenly, Grace twisted her ankle and cried out, about to fall backward. Crap, it's over. Falling in front of so many people would be a huge embarrassment. It's over. I'm going to be humiliated. Grace's little heart almost jumped out of her chest at that moment. Just in this critical moment of crisis, a hand suddenly supported her waist, stopping her from falling. Stinky Ethan. Grace stared blankly at Ethan in front of her, not yet reacting. At this point, their bodies were pressed tightly together. Ethan leaned in, holding her. In this moment, time and space seemed to freeze. Whoa! The scene suddenly erupted into an uproar. The students at the dance, aside from being surprised, all coincidentally revealed knowing smiles. It had completely turned into a massive PDA scene. Grace, are you okay? Ethan helped her up and asked with a smile. Phew, I'm okay. I'm okay. No, no problem. Grace's cheeks were bright red. She patted her chest, scared she had almost embarrassed herself. A bit of lingering fear. Let's continue. We can go slower, Ethan said softly, continuing to guide Grace. There were no more issues after that. Students joined the dance floor one after another, starting to dance with their partners. The dance officially began. After a while, the crowd's gaze was no longer focused on the two of them. Grace finally breathed a sigh of relief and leaned against Ethan. That scared me to death just now. Luckily, I didn't embarrass myself. Ethan held her slender waist, smelling the refreshing fragrance on her, feeling relaxed and happy. He laughed. Who told you to wear heels? Even wearing them. I can dance well, Grace pouted, a stubborn streak rising in her heart. Suddenly, a burst of exclamations rang out. The two looked toward the sound and saw two figures dancing to the front of the floor. Their movements were light, agile, and full of rhythm. Their graceful dance moves drew gasps from the people around them. The two figures passed right in front of Ethan. Ethan saw the girl's figure and paused. It was actually Lucy Yates. Lucy was dancing with a young man in a white shirt. Her dance moves were graceful, like a butterfly among flowers. Lucy also noticed Ethan. The corner of her mouth hooked up into a smile, and she stared straight at him. But Ethan looked indifferent, turning a blind eye to her gaze. However, Grace saw this scene clearly. Instantly, a trace of wariness inexplicably rose in Grace's heart. What's so great about that? We can dance well, too. With that, Grace stopped. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she took off the high-heeled shoes and stood on the floor in her bare feet. For a moment, everyone around stared at Grace in astonishment. My God, she took off her shoes. Is that allowed? Wait, campus beauty Grace has such a bold side. Ethan, come on. Grace laughed proudly. All right, Ethan smiled. The two joined hands and began to dance. They had perfect chemistry. Their movements were synchronized and coordinated, instantly attracting numerous gazes. Wow, they danced so well. Such great chemistry. So envious. The surrounding students discussed animatedly. Lucy watched this, feeling a bit absent-minded. Suddenly, she bumped into her partner, and they stopped. Lucy, are you okay? The young man asked with concern. Lucy tucked her hair behind her ear and said apologetically, No, nothing. I'm really sorry. I might need to rest a bit. Okay, shall I walk you to the side to rest? The young man offered enthusiastically. No, no need. Lucy waved her hands repeatedly, then curtsied slightly and turned to leave. But before she left the dance floor, she looked back at Ethan one last time, a look of doubt in her eyes. Lucy, why are you back? Weren't you dancing pretty well? Lily Chow saw Lucy walking back alone and asked in confusion. No, nothing. Maybe I'm just a little tired. Lucy forced a smile. Lily looked at her expression and guessed. Is it because of Ethan? Not really. Lucy turned her face away, trying to hide it. Don't deny it. Ever since you saw Ethan last time, you seem to be out of it constantly. You haven't actually fallen for him, have you? Lily covered her mouth and laughed. Lucy blushed and rolled her eyes at her. What nonsense are you talking about? He has a girlfriend, and she's so beautiful. Lily leaned in, hooked an arm around her shoulder, and whispered. So what if he has a girlfriend? She's not his wife. As long as you want it, there's still a chance. Besides, I suspect Ethan might be a second-generation rich kid. What he wears, what's on his wrist. TSK, TSK. If you can land him, you might become a wealthy young mistress. Lucy shook off her hand and said speechlessly, That wouldn't be right. Lily continued to persuade her. There's nothing not right about it. Maybe you two are true love? Who can say for sure with feelings? I can't be bothered to talk to you. I need to rest. Lucy didn't want to discuss this and sat down on a seat by the gym wall. Lily chased after her and sat next to her. Hey, tell me, if you don't like him, why have you been so absent-minded lately? Lucy rested her chin in her hands, thought for a moment, and said, I'm just confused. He seems to be avoiding me on purpose. I have a strange feeling like he knows me, like he's known me from a long time ago. But in my memory, I've never met him. I asked him last time, and he denied it too. But thinking back to that day, I just feel like something isn't right. I can't figure it out. After listening, Lily's eyes went wide with surprise. He knows you, but you don't know him? What does that mean? Could it be destiny? Fate? Maybe there really is something between you two. Lucy rolled her eyes at her. She wanted to argue, but the words stuck in her throat. Her thoughts became even more chaotic. At this time, the song ended, and warm applause rang out across the dance floor. Under the spotlight, Grace held Ethan's arm and nodded to the crowd, then exited the floor carrying her shoes. Phew, finally done. Mission accomplished. On the sidelines, Grace let out a heavy breath. Her suspended heart finally settled. Hurry up and put your shoes on. The floor is pretty cold. Ethan laughed, squatting down to help her put on her shoes. Her heart warmed, and she smiled sweetly. Thanks, Ethan. Next time, I definitely won't let you wear high heels. They look good, but they're inconvenient. It'd be bad if you twisted your ankle, Ethan admonished. Okay, I know. You're becoming as naggy as my mom, she teased. Mentioning her mother, she suddenly felt a bit homesick, so she continued, Ethan, we haven't gone back in a while. Let's go home someday. I miss my mom and dad. Okay, this weekend. We'll go back when we're off on the weekend. Ethan stood up and said dotingly. Grace hugged him happily, her hands around his waist, looking up at him with a smile. It's a promise. Ethan looked at the beautiful face close at hand, the exquisite features, the rosy cheeks, and couldn't help but feel a stir in his heart. It's a promise, I agreed to it. So, shouldn't you give me a little reward? Ethan grinned mischievously. Grace's cheeks turned apple red instantly. She spat. Do you still think you're a kindergartner? Asking for rewards for everything. Ethan reached out and pinched her smooth chin, then leaned in closer, their faces almost touching. In this moment, they could completely feel each other's breath. Grace's face was flushed, her little heart pounding as if a small deer were crashing around her chest, about to jump out. If you don't give it to me, I'll take it myself. Ethan smiled faintly, lowered his head, and kissed her lips. MMPH. Instantly, she felt her brain crash. The whole world became incredibly quiet, leaving only the sound of her own heartbeat. It was as if traces of electricity flowed from her lips through her whole body, until her soul trembled. Grace's wide-open eyes slowly closed, her long lashes trembling, completely entering a wondrous sensory world, immersed in it. At this moment, not far away, Chloe and Dana walked over and happened to see this scene. OMG, Dana couldn't help but cover her mouth in shock. She didn't expect Ethan and Grace to actually kiss in a setting like the dance. That was too bold, too romantic. So envious. Sue had a look of pure gossip delight. Me too, Chloe said enviously. But then she immediately pulled out a slip of paper with a number written on it and said proudly, But girls, I have good news for you. I am about to stop being single. Ga. Wow, really? Chloe, what is this? Dana's eyes went wide with curiosity. Chloe held the slip of paper in her hand and showed it off to the two of them. A handsome guy actively gave me his phone number just now. He was like 6 feet tall, super handsome, and totally charming. Oh my god, that's great, Chloe. Today really is your lucky day. Dana didn't calculate wrong. Dana put on a mystic air, pinching her fingers as if divining. Today the feng shui greatly favors Aquarius. Chloe, according to my calculations, you are not only going to have luck and love today, but you will also meet your true love. Maybe that handsome guy is your true love. If it works out, please be sure to give me a big red envelope. Chloe got happier the more she listened, looking at the paper in her hand. She secretly thought, could it be that my luck is turning today, and in my 19 years of being single since birth? If it works out, forget a red envelope. I'll cover your breakfast for the semester. Just as she finished speaking, her back was suddenly bumped by someone. Miss, please make way. A sturdy figure squeezed past her right side, almost knocking her over. What is wrong with you? Chloe stumbled, steadied herself, and glared at the figure in dissatisfaction. But when she saw the figure clearly, she froze. The guy saw her and froze too. Tank, Chloe, what are you doing here? The two shouted in unison, one after the other. Dana and Sue beside them looked at the pair, both revealing weird expressions. Why were these two so synchronized? Chloe recovered first. She hadn't expected the person who bumped her to be Tank. Seeing it was an old classmate, she held back the complaints she was about to unleash. Tank, aren't you studying at UIC? Why did you come to Illinois Tech? She asked in surprise. Tank scratched his head and chuckled sheepishly. Ethan said, let's get late-night food and hang out. So I came over to visit. Chloe, I'm really sorry about just now. I was walking in a hurry and didn't notice you. Oh, I see. It's fine. Chloe waved her hand very generously. But the next moment, her hand suddenly froze in midair. Only then did she realize something very important. The slip of paper that was originally in her hand was gone. Instantly, she went crazy. My paper is gone. My paper. It's over. Chloe grabbed her hair, frantically looking down at the ground for the slip of paper. Tank scratched his head, asking in confusion, Paper? What paper? Beside them, Dana's mouth hung open in shock. Chloe, your paper is gone? Yes. I remember I was just holding it in my hand, but when Tank bumped me, it disappeared. You guys, hurry and help me find it. Chloe cried urgently. Okay, let's look. Dana and Sue also started searching the ground. However, the three of them searched a 10-meter radius and couldn't find a trace of the paper. Chloe, looks like we really can't find it, Dana said helplessly, giving up. The gym was so crowded and the lighting so dim. Who knew where the paper had flown off to? Searching like this was undoubtedly looking for a needle in a haystack. Chloe tugged at her own hair, shouting in frustration. That was my only contact with that handsome guy. She felt like her future Prince Charming was gone, just like that. Gone. Her luck and love, her true love, all gone. Sue patted her shoulder and comforted her. It's okay, it's okay. It's just a piece of paper. You memorized the number on it, right? Chloe slapped her forehead and groaned. But I didn't memorize the number. Sue. Cough, cough. Then there's nothing we can do. Chloe suddenly jerked her head up, stormed over to Tank, and raged. Damn it. Tank, you made me lose my paper. You have to compensate me. Tank was completely confused, asking blankly. What paper? Compensate you for what? A piece of paper. Chloe grabbed him by the collar with one hand and said, articulating every word, it was a paper with a handsome guy's phone number on it. You knocked it out of my hand. Hearing this, Tank finally looked enlightened. He smiled bitterly. Chloe, I didn't do it on purpose. How am I supposed to compensate you? Chloe glared at him and huffed coldly. I don't care what method you use. You must find a handsome guy's phone number for me. Tank wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and whispered, Chloe, is there a possibility, I'm just saying a possibility, that I don't even know what that guy looks like? Chloe? You're pissing me off. Chloe let go of his collar and screamed madly. Tank coughed dryly and comforted her. Chloe, don't be so angry. There are so many handsome guys in the world. Why hang yourself on one tree? You lost a big tree, but maybe you'll gain a whole forest. Chloe, if this lady could have the whole forest, would she still be looking for one tree? Tank tilted his head, thought about it, and nodded. That's true. Makes sense. Chloe glared. Tank, do you have a death wish? Tank quickly took a step back, wary. Chloe, calm down. I really didn't mean to. Think about it from another angle. Maybe, just maybe, that handsome guy is a scumbag. Maybe he actually has a girlfriend. Chloe. Dana slapped her forehead, thinking to herself, this guy, if he's so good at talking, maybe he should talk less. It's over. Chloe is about to go berserk. Tank, pay with your life. Chloe swung her fist, ready to pummel him. Seeing things go south, Tank greased his feet and bolted. The two chased each other, running until they reached Ethan and Grace. Tank hid directly behind Ethan. Ethan, save me. Ethan looked at the two in astonishment, then raised a hand to block Chloe, asking with a smile, What are you two doing? Chloe put her hands on her hips, huffing angrily. Ethan, don't stop me. If I don't put a few bumps on his head today, my name isn't Jones. Grace felt even more surprised because she rarely saw Chloe this angry. Chloe, what's wrong? Did Tank do something to you? Chloe's cheeks blushed, and she quickly defended herself. No, it's something else. Then Chloe roughly explained what had happened. After listening, Ethan laughed in realization. So that's it. I thought it was something serious. Chloe, later I'll have Tank introduce you to new handsome guys. If you're not satisfied, he'll switch them out. He'll keep switching until you're satisfied. How's that? Tank quickly chimed in, right? Don't be angry yet. I'll cover your happiness for the rest of your life, okay? I guarantee I'll find you someone satisfying. Grace also advised from his side. Yeah, we're all old classmates. Just give Tank a chance to turn over a new leaf and start fresh. Hearing this, Chloe cooled down a bit. She huffed, fine. For their sake, Tank, I'll spare your dog life for now. But it's a deal. You have to introduce me to guys until I'm satisfied. Okay, no problem. Don't worry, leave it to me. Tank quickly patted his chest to guarantee. That's more like it. Chloe finally smiled. Ethan turned back and patted Tank's shoulder. Come on, Tank. Let's go buy something to eat. Ethan thought he should separate the two at this point to prevent them from arguing again. Okay. Tank quickly followed Ethan and slipped away. On the other side, in a distant corner, there were two sneaky figures. Report. Target has left. Over. Luke whispered. Good. Then let's start the operation. Ryan looked serious and waved his hand. Luke took out two identical bottles of Mountain Dew and said to Ryan, of these two bottles, one has medicine in it. Remember, the one with the black marker mark on the cap is the spiked one. Don't mix them up. Wait until you run into Ethan halfway, then hand him the spiked one. Remember that. Ryan paused, asking in shock, holy crap, why is it me again? Luke said solemnly, I'm the commander. You're the soldier. You have to display a fearless spirit, unafraid of death or difficulty, marching forward. Ryan, why aren't I the commander? Why is it always me? Luke's face fell, and he said helplessly, I'm the open rival. Ethan will definitely be wary of me. But you're different. You've appeared in front of them fewer times. And you can't just pretend you've already given up on pursuing Grace. Then shake hands and make peace with him. He'll definitely believe it. Ryan's expression changed, and he quickly said, No, that's too dangerous. We have to switch methods. He wasn't that stupid. If he did this, and Ethan became the laughingstock of the whole school, he'd probably be retaliated against by Ethan until he died. Wouldn't that just let Luke reap the benefits without doing the work? No way, absolutely not. Seeing Ryan refuse so flatly, Luke asked, Then do you have any better method? Ryan pondered for a moment, and suddenly a bolt of lightning flashed through his mind. I got it. Ethan and Tank chatted idly as they walked, leisurely heading towards the campus store, thinking they'd head back later to let Chloe's anger dissipate. Ethan, where am I supposed to find handsome guys to introduce to her? The only handsome guy I know is you. Tank spread his hands, looking utterly helpless. Ethan laughed and scolded. Tank, you've improved. You know how to suck up to me now. Cut out. Don't ask me to help you. You handle this yourself. If you can't fix it, just compensate her with yourself. Tank scratched his head with a goofy grin, looking very humble. That won't work. My standards aren't that low, are they? Tank and Chloe were old high school classmates and had a pretty good relationship, but neither of them had ever thought about it in that way. They were just too familiar with each other. You're too humble. I'll teach you a move. Treat her to a good meal later as an apology. Chloe isn't a petty person. Once the anger passes, it'll be fine, Ethan instructed earnestly. He done. Ethan, I'll listen to you, Tank said happily. As they were speaking, Tank suddenly noticed two sneaky figures near the campus store. Their eyes kept darting toward them. Hey, Ethan, who are those two? Do you know them? Tank turned his head to ask Ethan. Ethan looked closely. Even in the dim lighting, he recognized Luke Brooks' silhouette. Hey, Tank, you don't remember? That's Luke Brooks. He transferred to this school. Ethan smiled. Tank looked carefully and revealed a look of surprise. It really is him. The three of them had grown up in the same mill residential compound, so they all knew each other. Didn't he go to Europe? How come he's back? Tank asked, puzzled. Heard old man Brooks came back to do business, so he followed him back, I guess. Ethan then recounted Luke's embarrassing return, which made Tank laugh so hard he couldn't close his mouth. Laughing and chatting, the two arrived at the entrance of the campus store. Ethan raised his hand and shouted, Hey, handsome, give me 5 Rocket Pops first. I'm going to pick out some snacks. Sitting at the counter was a young man. He looked like a student working part-time at the store. No problem. The young man looked at the two with a grin. Ethan saw a strange look in his eyes and felt a bit suspicious. He turned his head and saw Luke and Ryan by the door, pretending not to see anyone. Hey, Luke, what are you doing here? Luke pretended to just hear the voice, turned around, and said, Nothing. I was watching the stars. Why? What's up? The stars are really round today. Ryan, can you not make up better excuses? The sky is full of clouds. Where are the stars? Also, stars are star-shaped. How are they round? What an idiot. Ethan looked up at the sky and laughed. Then take your time watching. With that, Ethan continued to pick out snacks in the store. After a while, the two selected their items and paid. Just as they were about to leave with their stuff, the young man suddenly stopped them. Sophomore, wait a minute. Ethan turned back in confusion. What's wrong? You are today's 100th customer. Congratulations. You and a bottle of Mountain Dew. Ethan's mouth twitched. You actually count the number of customers. Cough, of course. This is your prize. Please take it, the young man said seriously. Tank was happy. Hey, there's such a good thing. Your promotion isn't bad. I'll take it. Tank took the Mountain Dew and handed it to Ethan. He knew this was the soda Ethan liked to drink. Ethan took the Mountain Dew and smiled. All right, Tank, let's go. After Ethan and Tank left and walked far away, Luke and Ryan looked at each other and high-fived excitedly. Oh, yes. Haha, my plan wasn't bad, right? Ryan laughed proudly. Not bad. Hee. Let's just wait for the good show. Luke rubbed his fists in excitement. He was just waiting for Ethan to drink the soda and then have explosive diarrhea. According to the plan, after Ethan embarrassed himself in public, he would run to the restroom. But Ethan definitely didn't know that the restroom had already been clogged by him. Ga. He felt like he could already imagine Ethan becoming infamous at the school, and then Grace wouldn't be able to stand these things, leading to their breakup. Awesome. Then Grace would fall into his arms. Luke was fantasizing and giggling foolishly. Bonk! Ryan flicked his forehead, pulling him back to reality. Don't just laugh like an idiot. Pay the money first. Ryan shouted. Okay, but you aren't allowed to hit my head. Remember, I'm your superior. Ryan rolled his eyes at him and said righteously, I'm still your upperclassman. Luke, forget it just this once. Oomph. Luke took out $100 bill and handed it to the student watching the store, smiling. Thanks, senior. The student received the money and beamed. Hee, small matter, small matter. Ryan urged, all right, let's hurry and follow them. Let's go see. The two then continued to tail Ethan. Back inside the gym, Ethan's group was resting on the side, eating snacks. After eating for a while, the group put down their food and went onto the dance floor one after another. After Tank waited for Chloe to cool down, he actively invited her to dance. For the sake of the snacks, she agreed. However, Tank was clumsy, his dance moves awkward and funny, making Chloe cover her mouth and laugh. Ethan, on the other hand, held Grace's slender waist and danced on the floor. They were whispering intimately, talking and laughing, looking very happy. Luke and Ryan, watching secretly from not far away, were instantly consumed by jealousy. Damn it, hateful. Luke was envious, jealous, and hateful. He clenched his fists, nearly grinding his teeth to dust. Wait for it, wait for it. Ethan's gonna get it soon. Ryan said with certainty. Another 10 minutes passed. Ethan and Grace got tired and returned to their seats to rest. Then Grace suddenly got up and left, leaving only Ethan sitting alone on the bench. They saw Ethan pick up that bottle of Mountain Dew and twist off the cap, preparing to drink it. In the shadows nearby, drink, drink it, drink it, drink it. Luke shouted in a low voice, excited that success was imminent. He was incredibly expectant, staring nervously at Ethan's movements, just waiting for the moment Ethan swallowed the drink. You have to drink it. He saw Ethan's hand holding the bottle pause for a moment. Then he tilted his head back and took a gulp. Oh yes. Luke and Ryan saw this and exclaimed in surprise at the same time, jumping up. Ethan is done for. The medicine will kick in immediately. Luke couldn't suppress his inner excitement at all, his whole body trembling with joy. Suddenly, they saw Ethan stand up, leave his seat, walk through the crowd to the other side, and start chatting with a guy. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. Luke, what did you do? What's going on? Didn't you say this medicine is super strong and works immediately? Ryan turned his head and questioned. Yeah, last time I was constipated, I ate a little bit and exploded. This time I put a whole bottle in. It should be super strong. It shouldn't be like this. Luke looked confused. Ryan frowned and asked, Did you put in the wrong bottle? Hurry and go check. The two sneaked over to where Ethan had left his stuff. Ryan secretly picked up that bottle of Mountain Dew and checked the cap. HM? No, that's not right. Why is there no mark on the cap? You really did mess it up. Ryan accused. Luke took the bottle. Indeed, he didn't see the mark. He scratched his head, puzzled. That shouldn't be. I remember clearly it was this bottle. Then why does Ethan have no reaction at all? You definitely messed it up. Ryan affirmed. That shouldn't be. Let me try. Luke twisted off the cap, tilted his head back, and took a small sip, smacking his lips to taste it. HM? I can't taste anything different. Could the bottle he drank not be the prize one? Luke guessed. Ryan rubbed his chin and nodded. Possible. Maybe he bought a Mountain Dew too. And this one isn't the one we marked. Luke asked in confusion, but where did our bottle go? Chapter 277, You're asking me? How should I know? Hurry up and find it. If you find it, swap it with this one. Ryan whispered. Right. Who cares? Swap it first. Luke nodded, and the two began rummaging through the snack bag on the bench, looking for the Mountain Dew. But they searched through the whole bag and didn't find another bottle of Mountain Dew. What are you two doing? Suddenly, a cold voice rang out behind them. Luke was startled by Ethan's sudden voice. He turned around quickly, awkward. Oh, hey, Ethan's here. I saw you bought a lot of snacks, so. Caught red-handed, he stammered guiltily in his panic. Ethan, don't misunderstand. We just saw a big rat here, and it crawled into your snack bag. Luke and I hurried over to help you chase the rat away. Really? Ryan coughed dryly and said with a straight face. Hearing this, Luke immediately chimed in. Yes. I was just helping you chase away a rat. You should be thanking us. Ethan looked them up and down, chuckled lightly, and asked, Really? Luke nodded heavily. Of course it's true. Look at my innocent eyes. Do I look like someone who would lie? Ethan pointed to the Mountain Dew in his hand and sneered. Who are you kidding? Then why are you holding my drink? Cough, cough, I just came back from overseas not long ago and haven't had Mountain Dew yet. So, so I just took a little taste. But don't worry, I drank it without touching my lips to the bottle. Just one sip. Giving it back to you now. Luke stammered for a long time, taking a deep breath midway to calm down before putting the Mountain Dew down. A strange expression appeared on Ethan's face. You drank it, and you're okay? I thought you guys put something in the drink. Looks like I might have been overthinking it. Luke. Ryan. What? Both shouted in unison. Luke's face turned white, and he asked urgently, Is this the bottle you got as a prize? Seeing their faces change drastically, Ethan sensed something was wrong. Yeah, there isn't. Actually, something in there is there. Impossible. Where's the mark? Luke felt a sense of impending doom rising in his heart. Oh, that little black dot on the cap? I wiped it off. Ethan replied with a smile. These words were like a bolt from the blue, striking Luke directly on the head, leaving him completely stunned. That meant what he just drank was the spike bottle. Holy crap. Suddenly, Luke felt a churning in his stomach. He felt the medicine kicking in. A moist urge to defecate felt like it was about to spray out. Holy crap. It's over. I've been hit. Ryan quickly comforted him. It doesn't matter. He's been hit too. Comrade Luke, your sacrifice is worth it. Luke. Holy crap. So Ryan, this old boy, is the real fisherman reaping the benefits. I seen I've been played. Ethan suddenly spread his hands and laughed. I did drink it, but I spat it out. Only you drank it. Oh, so there are laxatives in there? How shameless. Ethan righteously scolded the two. How could you be so shameless as to think of putting drugs in a drink? Truly despicable. Low. Too low. How can this harmonious society have such low, shameless people like you? You are simply cancers on society. Tank, standing nearby, heard this and thought it was great, though he felt something was a bit weird. Luke and Ryan were completely dumbfounded now. What? You didn't drink it? Ryan then patted Luke's shoulder and sighed with regret. Luke, our plan has failed. You, hurry and find a toilet. As soon as his voice fell, Luke's stomach let out a violent gurgle-gurgle sound. He felt his insides turning upside down. Luke clenched his butt cheeks, his face instantly turning pale. He turned and ran. Ethan, I am at odds with you forever. He farted as he ran, and it was particularly loud. The back of his pants was wet, attracting the attention of people around him. Ew, it smells so bad. Holy crap, looks like that guy shit himself. Someone shouted, drawing more onlookers. Holy crap, it's true. That guy has diarrhea. It stinks. Who is that? Seems to be that transfer student, the one named Luke. Damn, his pants are wet. So disgusting. Bleck. It smells so bad, I'm gonna puke. Many people around discussed him and pointed fingers. Luke's face alternated between red and white. He felt utterly humiliated, wishing he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into immediately. Too damn embarrassing. Seeing this, Ryan silently followed in another direction, not daring to get too close to him, lest he be implicated and socially dead too. Before long, the two figures disappeared into the crowd. Tank shook his head and sighed with emotion. TSK tisk, truly too shameful. If it were me, I'd definitely transfer schools tomorrow. But this is his own fault. Truly, those who commit sins cannot live. Luke actually played this kind of trick. He definitely didn't know that Ethan wrote the book on this stuff. What do you call this? It's like trying to show off your swimming in front of Michael Phelps. Pure arrogance. The idiom is teaching a fish to swim. Ethan looked at him in surprise. Holy crap. Not bad, Tank. Your idiom vocabulary has improved in just a few days. Tank was embarrassed by the praise. He scratched his head. I've been cramming recently. Cramming idioms. On the other side, Luke ran for his life, clutching his butt, heading straight for the restrooms outside the gym. At this moment, there was already a long line at the restroom entrance. Many people were waiting to use the toilet, especially the men's room. Luke couldn't care less and tried to cut in line to rush in. But just as he was about to rush in, a middle-aged man from the maintenance staff grabbed him, blocking him outside. Hey, what are you doing? Luke's face was purple from holding it in. He said frantically, Uncle, let me in quick. I can't hold it anymore. Go use another place. Don't know who did it, but this men's room is stuffed with wads of toilet paper and wood. I'm arranging for someone to unclog it right now. Don't let me find out who did it. I'll mess him up, making me come over to unclog toilets in the middle of the night. FCK. The middle-aged man cursed loudly. Hearing this, Luke suddenly remembered. I already clogged the toilet. FCK. In that instant, he felt despair. What made him despair the most was that he couldn't hold it anymore. Forget it. Find a place with no people and resolve it first. He turned to leave the restroom area, but just as he walked out, he was blocked by two young men wearing glasses. I say, you have no manners. You're a dignified Illinois Tech student, yet you do something like cutting in line? Simply disgracing the face of Illinois Tech. A student wearing black-rimmed glasses scolded seriously. I don't have time to argue with you. Luke couldn't be bothered with him. He tried to rush out, but was blocked tight. Hey, why won't you listen to reason? HM, what's that smell? It's so bad. The glasses-wearing youth smelled it and quickly covered his nose. Others smelled it too and covered their noses and mouths one after another. But their eyes all converged on Luke. Obviously, the smell was coming from him. At this time, Ryan arrived quickly. He smiled apologetically at everyone. Really sorry. My junior is a bit impatient. Hope everyone doesn't mind. With that, Ryan whispered in Luke's ear, run fast, just find a random place to handle it. But Luke was already frozen in place, his face ashen and expressionless. Ryan saw his expression and felt something was wrong. He looked down. Holy crap. Cough cough, fellow students. I don't know him very well. Chapter 278, Inside the Gym. The freshman welcome dance was coming to an end. Ethan, Tank, Grace, and the others were resting on the sidelines. Tank, can you really not dance, or are you faking it? Why do you dance like a big clumsy bear? Chloe roasted him mercilessly. I really can't. I never danced in high school. Tank lowered his head in embarrassment and chuckled sheepishly. So stupid. Someone like you, who doesn't even know the simplest steps. How are you going to chase girls in college? I think you're destined to be single forever. Chloe teased. Hey, Chloe, that curse is too harsh. I bounce it back. Tank crossed his arms over his chest in a reflect gesture. Then I bounce it back to you. I continue to bounce. I reflect. The two started arguing again at the drop of a hat. Grace quickly stepped in to mediate, laughing. All right, you two, what are you reflecting? It's getting late. Let's go get some late-night food. Chloe, Dana, and Sue cheered excitedly when they heard they could go get food. Ethan stood up and smiled. All right, let's go. My treat. TSK, mister. Ford is so generous. Grace linked her arm with his and smiled sweetly. The group then left the dance venue and headed to the food street at the back of the school for a late-night snack. The meal lasted until 11 p.m. Only after everyone was full did they return to the school. Grace and her roommates went back together. Ethan and Tank went to the parking lot together. Ethan planned to drive Tank back to UIC. Just as the two walked to the parking lot, they suddenly saw a few familiar figures ahead. It was Jason York and Lily's group. Seeing Ethan was like seeing a savior for Jason. He rushed forward to greet him. Ethan, bro. Ethan looked a bit confused. He walked over and asked, what are you doing here? Look at the time. Aren't you taking your friends back? A look of embarrassment appeared on Jason's face. He laughed dryly. Ethan, my car broke down. Ethan, are you heading out? Ethan nodded. Yeah, dropping my brother back at UIC. Hearing this, Jason high-fived the air excitedly. Perfect. Lily and the others need to go back to UIC too. How about you give him a ride, Ethan? Saying that, Jason leaned into Ethan's ear and pleaded, Ethan, you gotta help me. Otherwise, Lily is gonna be mad at me. Help me out this time, and I'll definitely treat you to a big meal later. At this time, Lily and Lucy walked up. The two sized up Ethan, also watching his expression. Ethan, could we trouble you for a bit? Lily flipped her hair, using a tone bordering on coquettish. Lucy didn't speak. Instead, she stared straight at Ethan, a trace of doubt in her eyes. It seemed she had a lingering question about him in her heart. Looking at their expectant eyes, Ethan smiled faintly. He took out his keys, handed them to Jason, and said, no, but you could trouble Jason now. This meant letting Jason drive them back. Jason was stunned. He didn't know why Ethan would rather lend his car than give him a ride. Could it be that Ethan is specifically creating an opportunity for me? Thinking this, Jason was incredibly moved. Ethan, you are my true brother. He happily took the car keys and laughed. Okay. I'm not afraid of trouble. Ethan, don't worry. I'll be back soon. Ethan turned to Tank and said, Tank, you catch a ride back too. Tomorrow is Saturday. Remember to call Henry to come to the company. Tank grinned. You got it. Then Ethan will head out first. Jason, Tank, Lily, and Lucy left together. Jason hooked an arm around Tank's shoulder. He had known Tank for a long time. He had met him back when fixing computers, and knew Tank was Ethan's good brother, so naturally, he was one of their own. Tank, where you guys would have played tomorrow? Tank smiled and shook his head. I don't know. Whatever Ethan says, we do. Probably some work. Work? That's so boring. Forget that. Jason waved his hand. His family was well off, so he had never considered working while in college. He planned to have fun for 4 years. Otherwise, once he graduated and had to work for the family, the fun would be over. Money, for him, was something that was there as long as he opened his mouth to ask his dad. Hearing their chat, Lily suddenly interjected, "Jason, what company are you talking about? Does Ethan have a company?" Jason bragged proudly. "Of course. My buddy Ethan is a young talent. Started his own business at a young age, and now the company is thriving. I heard there are 700 or 800 employees. How about that? Impressive, right? Mr. Wayne Turner here is also a good buddy and a top executive in the company." Lily was dumbfounded on the spot when she heard Ethan's company had 700 or 800 employees. "Oh my God, that impressive. He's only a freshman." Lily was incredibly shocked, but thinking of the luxury watch on Ethan's wrist and what he wore, she suddenly realized. No wonder Ethan is so rich. Looks like he must come from immense wealth. If not, whose kid starts a company? Don't look at Ethan's young age. He's amazing. Jason laughed, a tone of worship in his words. Tank laughed too. On that point, I agree 200%. Lucy was shocked in her heart. She hadn't expected Ethan to be so formidable. A company that could hire 700 or 800 employees wasn't small. How much money would it take to support that many people? Lily tugged at her sleeve, revealing an excited look, telling her with her eyes, "Don't miss this prey. Make a move quickly." Lucy didn't speak. She just rolled her eyes at her. Beep, beep. Jason pressed the key fob, and the headlights of an Audi A6 lit up in front of them. This is it. Ethan's ride. It's my first time driving it too. Oh my God, an Audi A6. That must cost a lot, right? Lily's eyes lit up seeing the car. $30-something thousand. Heard Ethan say he bought it outright with money he earned himself, Jason said enviously. To be able to buy a luxury car outright at this age with his own ability, he envied that capability. He admitted he couldn't do it himself. Lucy covered her mouth in astonishment, looking as if she couldn't believe it. Ethan really is amazing. At this moment, she felt Ethan was much stronger than the golden boy trust fund kid Lily had described. How could a trust fund baby compare to this? But is there really such a monstrous genius in the world? She felt she couldn't see through Ethan at all now. He seemed shrouded in thick fog, intangible, the truth obscured. This man seemed to have secrets. What puzzled her most was that this man had been deliberately distancing himself from her from start to finish. There was an inexplicable atmosphere between them, yet it seemed like a giant iceberg stood between them. The more this was so, the more it aroused the curiosity deep in her heart. Ethan Ford, what exactly is your deal? Chapter 279, the next day, Saturday, 9:00 a.m. Ethan arrived at the company on time. Just as he entered, a pretty receptionist immediately stood up to greet him. "Good morning, President." The girl's voice was sweet, like a pleasant silver bell. Positions like reception and business public relations, which involved dealing with people, were suited for those with a certain level of attractiveness. This would invisibly improve the corporate image. Currently, West Ford Group didn't have a suitable candidate for the head of PR. However, in Ethan's mind, someone like Lana Cole would be suitable for PR. Socializing, business interactions, negotiating cooperation. In terms of dealing with people and situations, Ethan hadn't seen anyone do it better than Lana Cole. Just a pity. Ethan snapped out of his daze and asked with a smile, "Jenna, have Mr. Turner and Mr. Payne arrived?" "President, they got here ages ago. Before I even arrived, the two executives were already here." The girl named Jenna replied respectfully. "Okay, good. I have other matters today. If anyone looks for me, have them call my phone directly, but I won't be in the office," Ethan instructed. "Yes, President." Jenna nodded heavily. Ethan walked quickly into the office. The employees on duty for the weekend had all arrived. Seeing Ethan, they all stood up respectfully to greet him. "Hello, President Ford." "Good morning, President." "Hello, President." Ethan smiled and nodded to everyone one by one. Arriving at the president's office, Henry Payne and Tank were already inside drinking tea and waiting. "Henry, Tank here so early." Ethan greeted them. Ethan, I came early to handle the formalities for West Ford Electronics. Ross from legal is rushing me." Tank stood up and replied. Henry pulled a document out of his backpack and handed it to Ethan, saying seriously, "Ethan, this is the collection of key Tekka's cooperation examples I gathered. Through friends in the industry, I've also figured out their common cooperation methods. These are the materials I organized for you to look over." Ethan looked at Henry in surprise, took the file, and asked, "You organized this so quickly?" "Not bad, Henry. Your efficiency is really top-notch." Hearing the praise, Henry scratched his head in embarrassment and laughed. "Ethan, I rested for so many days and delayed the cyber cafe project for so long. I have to speed things up. Ethan flipped through the file while saying, "Still, don't kill yourself. Work is never-ending. When you have time, spend more with Hannah." Yes, I will." Henry felt warm inside and agreed. Ethan looked through the information. It was very detailed, clearly laying out Keytech's overview and cooperation methods. This would be very beneficial for the negotiation between Westford Group and Keytech. How are the talks with Keytech going? What did that manager Cruz, whom Professor Hall introduced, say? Ethan asked. Henry replied, "Manager Cruz is already going through the process. However, their company's upper management still has some concerns about changing the Chicago distributor. I've chatted with him a few times, and I sense they still have a bit of distrust towards us. Changing the distributor will affect their interests. Without attractive enough conditions, it probably won't be easy to move them." Ethan thought for a moment and said seriously, "Make an appointment with Manager Cruz. It's best to invite his direct superior too. Invite them to dinner in my name." Henry nodded and replied, "Okay, I'll call Manager Cruz in a bit. By the way, Ethan, Keytech is also very close with Southbridge Traders. At least 60% of Southbridge Traders stock comes from their city distributor. I heard Manager Cruz say that Southbridge Traders also intends to take the agency for Keytech in Chicago. If that happens, Southbridge Traders will almost monopolize 80% of computer parts in Chicago." Ethan knew what he meant. If Westford Group succeeded in fighting for the Keytech agency, the relationship with Southbridge Traders would turn into a competitive one, and an open one at that. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about Southbridge Traders. Just do our job well." Ethan chuckled lightly. He spoke very relaxed, seemingly not regarding Southbridge Traders as a threat at all. Henry paused. He knew that once Westford Group snatched the Keytech agency position, the fallout with Southbridge Traders would be complete. But seeing Ethan so unafraid of Southbridge Traders settled his heart greatly. "Ethan, did you call us to the company today for something important? Is there some special operation?" Tank asked curiously. Ethan smiled. "Actually, it's nothing much. You guys are about to become branch company leaders. I plan to lead by example and give you a lesson." "Huh? What lesson?" Tank froze, puzzled. Ethan glanced at their attire. Henry was wearing a casual shirt and jeans. Tank was wearing a white shirt and black dress pants, but the pants had faded and the white shirt was yellowing. Most importantly, neither of them managed their hairstyles at all. Tank's was messy and unkempt, while Henry had a buzz cut that made him look like a college student. "Look at what you two are wearing. You aren't earning small money anymore, yet you can't bear to wear something nice." Ethan shook his head helplessly and smiled bitterly. Tank and Henry looked down at themselves, faces blank. Ethan took out a pack of parliaments, handed one to each of them, and then said solemnly, "You aren't exactly young anymore. Men in their 20s shouldn't dress like kids. You two will be executives of a company in the future. Going out represents the corporate image. How can you dress so casually? Today, this lesson is to teach you how to groom yourselves. We're businessmen. Let's be presentable. Before, when the company was small, I didn't require much from you. Now it's different. Westford Group is about to be established, you know." Tank quickly took a step back, wary. "Hey, yeah. Ethan, you're right to scold us. I'll listen to whatever you arrange. Before, I didn't think too much, just thought about how to get things done. Now that I hear you say it, Ethan, it really makes sense. Right? We gotta be presentable. Must be presentable." Henry woodenly echoed, Right, presentable." Ethan nodded in satisfaction, straightened their clothes one by one, and finally blew a smoke ring, saying with emotion, "You two are my brothers. I also hope that by following me, you can make something of yourselves, look the part. We are no longer the guys fixing computers in a small shop. In the future, the people I, and you, will deal with our industry elites, social elites, leaders of various companies. Your dress and conduct can't be as casual as before. You guys have to evolve too." Tank froze. "Huh? Evolve?" Chapter 280. Half an hour later, the three arrived at the Metro Mall. This was the largest and trendiest comprehensive commercial complex in the city, known by the locals as having everything. The Metro Mall complex had 8 floors total. From B1 to the 4th floor were shopping areas, and the 5th to 7th floors were dining. Generally, luxury brand stores were located on the 3rd and 4th floors, while high-end dining was on the 7th. There seemed to be a clear line between general consumption and high-end consumption. Ethan took Tank and Henry straight to the 3rd floor, planning to upgrade their images starting here, and buy a little something for himself while he was at it. Arriving at the 3rd floor, Tank looked at the English letters on the storefronts, clothing brands, shoe brands, watch brands. The shops all had stylish, bright decor, every detail exuding an aura of high-end luxury. Ethan, do we really need to come here? The stuff here looks expensive. Tank swallowed hard and whispered. Henry passed a display window and saw a suit on a mannequin. The price tag next to it read $1, $2.89. He was instantly shocked. Ethan, this isn't just normally expensive. Even Henry's usually calm face showed a trace of hesitation. Ethan glanced at the two of them and laughed. You guys calm down. Don't worry, I'm paying for everything today. It won't cost that much. To Ethan's current wealth, a few thousand or tens of thousands was small change, similar to the concept of pocket money for ordinary people. Even so, Tank and Henry acted like country bumpkins in the big city. They found everything novel, but only dared to look from afar. When they got close and saw the price tags, they instantly chickened out, not even daring to touch anything for fear of breaking it and having to pay. Henry, look at those leather shoes. Beautiful, right? Tank pointed at the shoes and whispered to Henry. Beautiful, but the price is $589 a pair. That's higher than my living expenses for a year. Henry's mouth twitched, shrinking back. Ethan patted his shoulder and smiled. If you like it, buy it. This is Bally, a Swiss brand. Good quality, decent brand recognition. They look classy. Ethan looked up at the store. It was a high-end boutique. In this era, luxury goods were starting to flood into the burgeoning market, often through specific high-end distributors or department store counters. Bally was a brand with over 100 years of history, a well-known luxury brand globally, specializing in core leather products like shoes. Many business bosses loved wearing this brand. Come on, let's go inside and look. Ethan put his hands behind his back and walked into the shop first. The other two followed closely. Welcome to Bally, gentlemen. A long-haired beauty wearing a black skirt suit bowed in greeting at the door, wearing a professional, sweet smile. Tank blushed, seeing the beautiful sales associate. Feeling quite shy, Henry turned his head away, avoiding eye contact with the beauty, unsure if he didn't want to or didn't dare to. Only Ethan remained composed, hand behind his back, as if walking in his own backyard. Hello, sir. I'm the sales associate here. ISA. You can call me ISA. I am honored to serve you. The beauty named ISA said to Ethan with a curtsy and a smile. Her service attitude was top-notch. Ethan nodded with satisfaction and smiled. Nice name. Sorry to trouble you then. Pretty... ISA replied politely. You flatter me, sir. May I ask your name? Ford. Ethan Ford. Mr. Ford, if you see any shoes you like, I can introduce them to you. This way, please. ISA led Ethan and the others into the store to look at shoes. Her service awareness was excellent. She kept smiling the whole time, explaining kindly, introducing the shoes and the brand. Tank, however, was confused listening to the brand history. It felt like a lecture, so he got bored and wandered off to other counters by himself. Tank, what are you doing here? Suddenly, a crisp voice came from behind him. It was a voice Tank was incredibly familiar with. He whipped his head around. Sure enough, it was Sally. But now, there was a man beside her. He recognized the man, a youth in his early 20s, the same one who had confessed his love to Sally in front of the restaurant last time. Sally, who is he? Your classmate. The young man beside her was wearing a sharp suit. His skin was quite fair, and he looked like he came from a wealthy background. The young man was looking Tank up and down with a gaze full of contempt, emitting an inexplicable sense of superiority. Yes, honey. He's my high school classmate. Tank, Sally dodged his eyes, hiding the fact that she and Tank had been boyfriend and girlfriend. Hearing this, Tank's heart suddenly plunged into an icy glacier. He looked at Sally in disbelief. He didn't expect that after cheating on him, Sally would even deny the beautiful relationship they once had, or rather, not admit to it at all. Yeah, just classmates. Tank curled his lip, enduring the knife-like pain in his heart, and mocked sarcastically. Sally turned her gaze away, not daring to look Tank in the eye. She was probably worried her eyes would betray her guilt. The young man beside her sensed the strange atmosphere between them and frowned instantly, feeling Sally had intentionally hidden their relationship. A trace of anger flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, Is that so, Sally? I've never heard you mention having such a classmate. Were you close in high school? Greg, I'm not that close with him, Sally quickly defended. Greg North didn't listen to her explanation at all. Instead, he looked at Tank and asked with a smile, Hee Tank, right? What do you study? Uick. Tank heard the contempt in his tone and felt very unhappy, feeling looked down upon. So he put his hands in his pockets and stared straight back at him. Oh, so you study at UIC? I thought it was Illinois Tech or U Chicago. Well, studying at UIC isn't bad. When it's time for internships, if you can't find a unit, you can call me. After all, you and Sally are high school classmates. Greg took a wallet out of his pocket, then pulled a gold-stamped business card from it. He handed the card to Tank. Tank took the card and looked at it. It read, Deep Blue Apparel Co. Ltd. Vice General Manager, Greg North. Seeing it was apparel, Tank understood. It was likely a company manufacturing clothing and doing clothing trade. Tank looked at Greg's arrogant, insufferably supercilious face again, and that tone just now. It was like giving alms to a beggar. Tank felt a blockage of anger in his heart. No need. I have a job. With that, Tank slapped the card back onto Greg's chest, turned, and walked away. Greg had never been treated so rudely before and was stunned. The next moment, the gold-stamped card fell to the ground, and his face instantly turned purple. FCKU. What kind of trash is that? Deadbeat scum. Sally quickly soothed him. Honey, don't be angry. Tank's parents just work in a factory. Low class. Don't lower yourself to his level. Greg backhanded her with a slap, cursing. FCK, are you speaking up for him? Sally clutched her cheek, staring at him in disbelief, tears welling in her eyes. You hit me? Greg North glared at her, his patience worn thin. So what? If you don't like being with me, you can walk away right now. Sally lowered her head, sobbing silently, but she didn't move. Greg, clearly agitated, demanded, Tell me the truth. Is there something going on between you and that guy, Wayne Turner? No, really there isn't. Honey, you have to believe me, Sally pleaded, wiping her tears. She knew Greg had a temper, but she endured it. She didn't want to miss this chance to marry into money. As her mother often said, if she could lock down a guy like Greg North, she'd be set for life. She wouldn't have to work in a mill like a regular girl, or marry some blue-collar nobody from the boondocks. Wayne Tank Turner was a good guy, but she knew his background. He couldn't give her the life she wanted. She wasn't willing to struggle with him, splitting a single fast food meal into two just to get by. All right, enough. Stop crying. Your crying annoys the hell out of me, Greg snapped, dismissing her with a wave of his hand. Sally nodded, instantly choking back her sobs and clinging tightly to his arm. Meanwhile, on the other side of the floor, Tank returned to the bally section, looking dejected. Ethan Ford was browsing shoes. Seeing his friend's expression, he asked, What's up, Tank? Why the long face? Ethan, I just ran into Sally, Tank said, his voice heavy with misery. Sally, Ethan realized immediately. You still hung up on her? Don't think about it. It's in the past. She's not worth it, Ethan said with a comforting smile. Tank gave a bitter laugh and nodded. Yeah, you're right, Ethan. Henry Payne suddenly chimed in. You said it yourself that night. You're done with her. Tank didn't know if Henry was being sarcastic or just blunt. He sighed. Henry, you've never been in a relationship, so you don't get it. Wait until you find a girl, then you'll know. But seriously, pick the right one. Don't end up like me. How can you just forget someone you like so much? People aren't computers. We don't have a delete button. Ethan understood the sentiment perfectly. He smiled. Well, you can drag the file to the recycle bin. Give it enough time, and the system will automatically empty it. That actually makes sense, Tank said, exhaling a heavy breath, the gloom lifting slightly from his face. All right, forget about her. I picked out a few pairs. You guys try them on. 3 pairs of dress shoes for each of you. That should be enough for your daily rotation, Ethan said, patting Tank on the shoulder. Ethan, that many? That's gotta cost a fortune. Tank asked, shocked. Ethan shot him a look and laughed. I told you to try them on. So quit yapping and try them on. Thanks, Ethan. You really are the best big bro. Huh. Tank chuckled, his mood lifting. With the help of the sales associate, ISA, the two of them tried on the shoes. The fit was perfect. Henry jumped up and down in place, looking puzzled. Ethan, these are comfortable, but I don't feel like there's $700 worth of special. Ethan rolled his eyes. You're paying the premium for the brand, the luxury status. In the future, for work and formal events, you guys need to look the part. So luxury goods are basically a money printer? Henry didn't think about the fashion. His mind went straight to the margins. Of course they make money. That's the value of a brand. Someday, we'll build our own brand, Ethan said with a smile. ISA walked over, asking respectfully, Mr. Ford, shall I box these up for you? Ethan nodded. 3 pairs for each of them. Oh, and the 7 pairs I picked out earlier, box those up too. Ethan planned to buy gifts for his parents, George and Lily Miller, and Grace. He wanted to bring something back for everyone. ISA's face lit up with joy. A whale. She hadn't expected this young man to be such a high roller. Absolutely, Mr. Ford. Please wait a moment. I'll have everything packed immediately. I estimate your total will reach our VIP threshold. May I set you up with a membership card? Being a member includes free cleaning for clothes and shoes, delivery services, and exclusive discounts, ISA asked politely. Ethan was used to these marketing tactics. Binding customers with memberships was standard practice. Sure, go ahead. We'll look at some other things while you process that. Ethan waved his hand. Certainly, Mr. Ford. ISA responded happily, then rushed to help her colleagues pack the boxes. Ethan led Tank and Henry to the apparel section, planning to pick out a few suits and belts. However, after looking at a few racks, Ethan shook his head. The suits here were mostly European cuts that didn't quite fit their builds. Finally, he stopped in front of a display of dress shirts. The styles looked decent enough. If you're not buying, don't block the way. Don't act like you can afford this stuff. Suddenly, a mocking voice came from behind. Ethan glanced back and instantly recognized Sally. The speaker had to be the guy she was with. Tank frowned, his voice low. Greg North, whether we buy or not is none of your business. Quit posturing in front of us. Go flex somewhere else. Greg had been annoyed by Tank's presence earlier and sneered. Heh, I can actually afford to flex. Unlike some people who want to show off, but don't have the means. Oh, by the way, you guys probably don't know, but a random shirt here costs more than you make in months. Greg casually grabbed a shirt and dangled the price tag in front of Ethan and Tank. Oh look, just this one shirt is over $400. Henry, seeing Greg's smug face, whispered to Ethan. Ethan, this guy's a piece of work. I really want to punch him. Ethan chuckled lightly. World's full of clowns. Don't waste your energy. For people like this, Ethan didn't even bother giving them a direct look. Greg raised his hand and shouted, Hey, miss, I want this one and this one. Bag 'em up. A salesgirl quickly took the two shirts down and brought over the mobile POS terminal. Hello, sir. The total is $900. Will that be credit or cash? Credit, Greg said arrogantly, pulling out a bank card and handing it over. The salesgirl swiped it, but the machine beeped an error. I'm sorry, sir. The transaction was declined. She handed the card back. Greg froze, suddenly remembering. His balance might be low. He'd blown through the allowance his family gave him. Damn it. These two shirts were ridiculously expensive. This was awkward. The flex failed. Greg saw Ethan and the others looking at him like he was a joke. It felt like he'd just swallowed a bug. Cough. You know what? That other one doesn't look that great. I don't really like it. I'll just take one, Greg said, trying to save face. All right, sir, the salesgirl replied. This time the card went through. Sir, here is your shirt. She handed him the bag. Greg took the bag, regaining his swagger as he looked at Ethan. Oh, hey, got another new shirt. Price is all right. Not too high. He turned and wrapped his arm around Sally's waist, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Sally, babe, in this world, there are some things certain people can't afford from birth, and they'll never enjoy them in their entire lives. Don't you agree? Sally murmured a weak response. Ethan shook his head and spat out two words, dumbass. FCKU, who are you calling names? Greg exploded, his face turning purple with rage. Ethan shook his head, ignoring him. Engaging with people like this only encouraged them. He turned and scanned the rack of shirts. There were about a dozen left. He casually picked out 3 and set them aside, then smiled at the salesgirl. Hi there. Except for these 3, I'll take the rest. Box them all up for me. The salesgirl stood frozen, her eyes wide with shock. Greg's jaw dropped, his face a mask of disbelief. The moment Ethan spoke, the area fell silent. Everyone stared at him in shock. The salesgirl thought she had misheard and stammered. Sir, did you say? All of them? Ethan smiled faintly. Why? Are they not for sale? Oh, no, of course. Please wait a moment. I'll pack them right away. The salesgirl was overjoyed and immediately started bagging the items. At that moment, ISA walked over and respectfully handed Ethan the bill. Mr. Ford, here is your receipt. The 10 pairs of leather shoes you purchased come to a total of $7,000. I've already applied the 10% VIP discount. Everyone else who heard the $7,000 figure was stunned. Tank opened his mouth, screaming internally. Holy crap, $7,000 just for shoes. That's luxury for you. Greg and Sally stared at Ethan, dumbfounded. Greg's face showed extreme shock and disbelief. Spending $7,000 on shoes? He had never been that extravagant. If he spent money like that, his dad would beat him black and blue. Who the hell was this guy? Was he some second-generation heir from a wealthy family? It was very possible. Sally was shocked, but mostly by how Ethan could have so much money. She remembered Tank mentioning that Ethan opened a computer repair shop. She had been there a few times. It was just a small storefront. Had Ethan hit the jackpot in a short time since she last saw him? Does that mean Tank, working for him, was making good money too? Suddenly, Sally looked at Tank with a complicated expression. Mr. Ford, did you purchase clothes as well? ISA asked, surprised. Yes, just bring it all up together. Ethan said with a smile. Soon, the other salesgirl finished scanning the tags and said to Ethan, Mr. Ford, the total after discount is $16,500. Thank you for your patronage. Will that be card? $16,000. The group nearly dropped their jaws hearing the number. Ordinary folks might not save 10 grand in years, and he just spent 16,000 in one go. Greg swallowed hard. Spending that much on clothes and shoes meant he wasn't just rich. He was loaded. Yeah, card. Ethan pulled a bank card from his wallet. After the transaction cleared, ISA bowed deeply with a beaming smile. Thank you for your business, Mr. Ford. No problem. Please have these delivered to the address on this card. Ethan handed her a business card. ISA took the card with both hands. Her eyes widened. President, West Ford Group. Oh my God, this young man is the president of a corporate group. Unbelievable. ISA covered her mouth in shock, but quickly recovered, her attitude becoming even more respectful. She bowed. Certainly, Mr. Ford. Ethan turned back and glanced at Greg, speaking calmly. Kid, don't go around acting like a big shot just because you have a little pocket money. It's embarrassing. Greg's face turned shades of green and purple. He stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Ethan smiled slightly and added, Posturing is really pointless. Saying that, Ethan looked at Sally and said coldly, Sally, you leaving Tank. I actually think it's the best thing that could have happened to him. I hope you don't regret it later. For the sake of us being old classmates, let me give you some advice. Take care of yourself. With that, Ethan led Tank and Henry away. When the three of them were far enough away, Greg turned his bloodshot eyes on Sally and demanded furiously, What did he mean by that? You used to be with that guy, Wayne? You dated him. Sally panicked, her eyes darting around. Honey, it's not what you think. Let me explain. Explain my ass. FCKU, you lied to me. You said you lost it riding a bike? Bullshit. Turns out I picked up second-hand goods. Greg got more agitated as he spoke, grabbing a handful of Sally's hair. No, Greg, don't. You're hurting me, Sally cried out, tears streaming down her face. Slut. Greg slapped her across the face, knocking her to the ground. ISA, seeing him get violent, quickly stepped in to stop him. Sir, please calm down. Fighting is not allowed in the mall. Please use your words. Greg huffed coldly, shook off her hand, and stormed off, leaving Sally weeping alone on the floor. In the smoking area at the end of the mall corridor, Tank sat on a bench, rubbing his face, trying to sober up from the shock. Ethan handed him a cigarette. Tank, take one. Thanks, Ethan. Tank's eyes were red. He took the Parliament, lit it, and took a deep drag. Ethan, I saw bruises on Sally's face. Tank exhaled smoke, his expression pained. He had noticed the handprint on her cheek when he saw her again. In that moment, it felt like a knife twisting in his heart. But he had to act cold and indifferent in front of her, so he didn't ask. But the pain was real. She was the woman he had once loved to his core. Countless nights, he told himself to forget her completely. But the more he tried, the more it hurt. How long does it take to forget someone you loved? He didn't have an answer. Ethan lit his own cigarette and spoke calmly. I know. I saw it. But Tank, you have to look forward. Don't live in the past. Remember, she cheated on you. She left you. You two have no connection anymore. Henry sat on the other side of Tank and said flatly, Tank, if I knew it was like that, I would have punched that guy earlier. He has a punchable face. Tank rubbed his face and forced a smile. You're talking nonsense. Ethan's right. Sally has nothing to do with me anymore. Screw it. Ethan looked at him and sighed softly. Tank valued loyalty and emotion too much. He said he was over it, but deep down he probably wasn't. But that was Tank. If he could let go easily, he wouldn't be who he was. Ethan knew he couldn't say much about Tank's feelings. Tank had to make peace with it himself. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside the smoking area. Then a woman shouted, Bastard, you dare steal from me? Give it back. Damn it. If I don't fix you, my name isn't Vane. Ethan recognized the voice the moment he heard it. It was Victor the Reaper, Vane's sister, Valerie Vane. Before Ethan could even stand up, Henry Payne shot out from beside him like an arrow. The reaction speed left Ethan and Tank dumbfounded. Holy crap, Henry is... Tank opened his mouth, but couldn't finish the sentence. Don't just sit there, let's go. Something's definitely wrong. Ethan stubbed out his cigarette and rushed after him. At the other end of the corridor, Valerie was tangling with two men. The noise attracted the attention of many shoppers. Let go BTCH. A man with a buzz cut wearing jeans glared viciously at Valerie, who was gripping his shirt. But Valerie was no shrinking violet. She was the sister of a mob boss. She had seen it all. She glared right back and kicked the man. You steal my wallet and dare to stare me down? The buzz-cut man, enraged by the kick, raised his hand to strike her. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind Valerie. The buzz-cut man only saw a foot flying toward his face. Bam! Henry's roundhouse kick connected solidly with the man's face, sending him flying backward to roll twice on the ground. Valerie froze, turning her head to see Henry's back. It's you. Are you okay? Henry looked back and asked calmly. Just then, the accomplice, a man in a leather jacket, grabbed Henry from behind, locking him in a chokehold, clearly intending to avenge his partner. Look out! Valerie's heart jumped in her throat, but she remained cool, stepping forward quickly to kick the leather jacket man squarely between the legs. Oh no! The man's face went instantly pale. He clutched his groin and curled up like a cooked shrimp. However, the momentum caused Valerie to stumble. She lost her balance and was about to fall. Henry caught her, wrapping his arms around her slender waist. He pulled her up, steadying her, but in doing so, he pulled her directly into his embrace. In that moment, their eyes locked. Time seemed to stop. All surrounding sounds faded, leaving only the beating of their hearts. Henry blushed, looking at Valerie with embarrassment, then averted his gaze, stammering, "You okay?" I'm fine, thanks." Valerie snapped back to reality. But realizing she was still tightly held in Henry's arms, her face turned as red as an apple. At this point, Ethan and Tank arrived, rolling up their sleeves and raining punches on the two thieves until they begged for mercy. "What did you steal? Hand it over," Ethan shouted. The leather jacket guy threw the wallet and ran, abandoning his partner. The buzz-cut man scrambled up and bolted after him. Ethan picked up the wallet, dusted it off, and turned around to find Henry and Valerie still hugging. Ethan, "Hey, Henry, nice moves." He put his hands behind his back, seemingly in no rush to return the wallet to Valerie. But Tank, worried about Henry, rushed over. "Henry, are you okay? You hurt? You just got out of the hospital not long ago. Why play hero? Seriously." Tank's voice pulled Henry back to reality. He realized he was still holding on to Valerie. Sorry." Henry looked flustered, unsure of what to do with his hands. He had never held a girl's hand, let alone hugged one. The panic of inexperience was evident. Valerie, blushing, glared at him and whispered, "How long are you planning to hold on?" Hearing this, Henry abruptly let go. Caught off guard, Valerie fell straight onto her butt. Ouch! What the hell? Ethan shook his head, watching Henry. No wonder Henry always said he was destined to be single. There was a reason for it. Sorry. Henry reached out to help her up. Valerie sighed, patting the dust off her clothes. "Forget it, it's nothing. I should be thanking you for the help." Where's my wallet? Did you get it back?" Ethan stepped forward and handed her the wallet with a smile. "Miss Vane, it's been a while. Fate seems to have brought us together here." Valerie took her wallet, grateful. "Thanks, President Ford." Ethan waved his hand. "You should thank Henry. If he hadn't heard your voice and rushed out immediately, those two might have gotten away." TSK. I've never seen Henry run that fast. That speed. I was stunned. Ethan was a professional wingman. He immediately shifted the spotlight to Henry. Hey, I was fast too, okay? I rushed over and threw a punch. I wasn't much slower than Henry." Tank walked up to Ethan, grinning and seeking credit. Ethan secretly rolled his eyes at him, then flicked his forehead, laughing. "You get the most credit." Tank caught Ethan's look and instantly realized what was happening. He quickly shook his head. No, Henry was the awesome one. That kick was legendary." Valerie turned back and nodded to Henry. "Thanks." Henry responded stiffly. No problem. You took care of me in the hospital, so this small thing is nothing. I still owe you a favor anyway." Valerie covered her mouth and chuckled. "Well, you said it. I didn't force you." Her laugh captivated Henry instantly. 3 words filled his mind. She's beautiful. Her smile was free-spirited and bright, warming the heart like sunshine. "Henry, since you owe her a favor, why not treat her to a meal?" Ethan assisted from the sidelines. "All right. Miss Vane, care to join us for lunch?" Henry scratched his head and mustered the courage to ask. Valerie agreed readily. Haha, sure. I get a free meal. I'm starving. Haven't had lunch yet." Ethan smiled. "There's a restaurant on the 5th or 6th floor. Let's go up and take a look." "Done." Valerie nodded. But as she tried to take a step, a sharp pain shot through her ankle. She looked down to see her ankle turning blue and black. "Great, I sprained it." She slapped her forehead helplessly. Henry quickly squatted down to check. "Looks like a bad twist." Valerie rolled her eyes. "I'm a nurse. I know that. Do you need to tell me? It's just a small sprain. Some ice and liniment later, and it'll be fine. Nothing is more important than my stomach." Let's eat first, Valerie said nonchalantly. But after 2 steps, she was hissing in pain. Henry suddenly moved in front of her and crouched down. Valerie paused. What are you doing? Henry looked back, his tone unusually gentle. Get on. I'll carry you. Get on. I'll carry you. Henry looked at her with unwavering determination. Valerie paused for a moment, but didn't hesitate long. She leaned onto Henry's back and said, Then I won't be polite. Say me walking on a sore foot. Henry hoisted her up, holding her steady, and said calmly, You took care of me for so long. It's my turn to take care of you. It's only right. Ethan and Tank watched from the side, both sporting mischievous grins. Way to go, Henry. Now we're getting somewhere. Hey, Ethan, does Henry have a shot? Tank whispered enviously. Ethan chuckled lightly. There's a shot, but won't be easy. Henry seems genuinely interested in a girl for once, so he definitely likes her. But Valerie, whether she likes Henry is hard to say. Hope it's not unrequited. Tank looked at Henry with the gaze of a proud father. If he likes her, let him go for it. Whether it works out or not is another story. Besides, my boy Henry isn't bad. Ethan rolled his eyes at him. Listen to you. People would think you're Henry's dad. Since when did you promote yourself? I don't approve. Besides, Henry is older than you. Ethan, I was just feeling emotional. Tank scratched his head. Hey, Ethan, let's go. They're getting far ahead. Ethan knocked him on the head again. You idiot. I'll let them get ahead on purpose. What? You want to be a third wheel? Tank realized his mistake and gave a thumbs up. Ethan smooth. Very smooth. The group arrived at a Western bistro on the 6th floor of the Metro Mall. Seeing it was lunchtime, Ethan stepped aside to call Grace. After a moment, she picked up. Stinky Ethan, what is it? If you have business, speak. If not, be gone. This princess is busy. Grace's tired voice came through the phone. Ethan smirked. Your Highness, I am currently at the bistro in the Metro Mall. Do you want to come over? Bistro, Grace shouted in delight, followed by the sound of her swallowing saliva. But she quickly deflated. I want to, but the sadistic teacher added more assignments this morning. Design projects. If I don't finish this weekend, I can't turn them in on Monday. My bistro steak. I want it. The pain. Forget it, Stinky Ethan, eat by yourself. I have to finish my homework. Ethan teased. You can't finish in 2 days? If you don't come today, you're going to miss some major gossip. What did you say? Gossip? Wait for me. I'll be right there. Grace's voice went up an octave before she hung up. Ethan, since when was she so interested in gossip? She must have caught it from Chloe Jones. Yes, definitely. Chloe Jones? Half an hour later, the waiter was serving appetizers. Ethan, I'm here. Grace's voice arrived before she did. Ethan looked up to see Grace sprinting over. Not bad, Grace. That was fast. Of course. Quick, tell me, where's the gossip? Where? Grace plopped down next to Ethan, asking excitedly. 2 pairs of eyes immediately locked onto Ethan. Valerie and Henry. Ethan looked awkward. He gave a dry laugh. What are you talking about? Nothing's going on. I just invited you for lunch. Grace noticed Henry's flustered expression and Valerie acting nonchalant. She put 2 and 2 together, and the fire of gossip ignited in her eyes. Right. Perfect. I was hungry too. Just out for a meal, hee. Grace laughed strangely. Ethan changed the subject. Do you guys want some red wine? Tank raised his hand. Ethan, what kind? Like the grape juice Victor has. Ethan slapped his forehead and said seriously, Tank, you need to broaden your horizons. If you go out for business talks, people will laugh at you. Listen, wines are roughly categorized by color. Red, white, rose. By sweetness. Dry, semi-dry, semi-sweet, sweet. Usually when we say dry red, it's dry red wine. At a dinner, you need to know what the guests prefer. Don't mix it up and make it awkward. Ethan lectured patiently, while Henry and Tank listened intently, nodding along. Waiter, what reds do you have? Ethan signaled the server. Sir, we have imported suppliers, so we have most major brands. Which one would you like? The waiter asked respectfully. Do you have Le Pen? How about D. Kim for sweet white, or Lafite for sweet red? Ethan named high-end market staples. If you didn't know someone's specific taste, these brands were safe bets because their quality and recognition were universally accepted. We have them all, sir. Should I bring them now? The waiter asked, slightly surprised. Yeah, bring them all. Ethan nodded. Soon, the waiter brought the wine, opened the bottles, and let them breathe. Ethan introduced the wines and taught them how to taste. Miss Vane doesn't drink, right? Ethan asked casually. Valerie felt underestimated. She slammed the table. Why wouldn't I drink? Are you looking down on me? Hey, no. Isn't your profession special? Just asking. Ethan defended. Valerie rolled her eyes. Who says nurses can't drink on their days off? I'm off this weekend. Nothing to do tomorrow, anyway. Come on, fill it up. Hey, maybe not. You just sprained your ankle. Alcohol might make you unsteady, Ethan advised, feigning concern. Grace saw Ethan's expression and snickered. This guy is definitely plotting something. Are you questioning my tolerance? Even my brother doesn't question me. Drinking you under the table would take minutes. Cut the crap. Fill it up. Valerie waved her hand grandly, her gestures echoing Victor's domineering presence. Truly siblings, Ethan chuckled. If you insist. Henry, what are you waiting for? Pour for Miss Vane. You really want a drink? Henry checked with Valerie again, mostly worried she couldn't handle it. Don't nag. Pour it, Valerie commanded with a wave of her hand. Henry had no choice but to pour her the wine. Valerie lifted her glass, then noticed Henry's was empty. She frowned. Your glass is empty. What are you waiting for? Henry quickly filled his own glass. Cheers. Let's go. Valerie raised her glass to invite him. They clinked glasses. Henry took a sip, but Valerie downed the entire glass of red wine in one go. More than half a glass of wine vanished like water down a drain. This scene left everyone stunned. Tang dropped his jaw, staring blankly. Oh my God, Miss Vane's tolerance is extraordinary. Ethan's mouth twitched, imaginary black lines appearing on his forehead. This situation was unexpected. Valerie's capacity for alcohol was surprisingly high. She drank wine like it was water. Henry stared, jaw slack. Valerie allowed a small burp and rolled her eyes at him. What are you doing? Saving it for the fish. Henry. Okay, I'll finish it. Not wanting to be looked down upon. Henry downed his glass too. Huh, that's more like it. Come on, fill her up. I'll play you for a few rounds of fingers. Valerie laughed heartily, pouring Henry more wine as she spoke. It was Henry's first time seeing such a boisterous girl, but his gaze toward Valerie only grew gentler. All right, as much as you want, I'll keep you company, Henry said, showing his resolve. Ethan, seeing Valerie getting hyped instead of drunk, felt a phantom toothache. He had miscalculated. It looked like Henry wouldn't be able to handle Valerie on his own. No, he had to think of a plan. Ethan rolled his eyes toward Tank and Grace. The two caught Ethan's signal and understood instantly, nodding almost simultaneously. Here, this is my first time drinking with Miss Vane. Let me toast you. Ethan raised his glass, taking some pressure off Henry. Sure. Come on, red wine is weak. Bottoms up. Valerie laughed, then down another glass. Ethan had only one word in mind. Impressive. She was the heaviest drinker he had ever met. Grace was also shocked. She tugged at Ethan's sleeve. Stinky Ethan, she can really drink. What do we do? Ethan whispered back. Don't worry. Three Stooges can beat a genius. With that, Ethan downed his glass. Grace followed up with a toast to Valerie, but she couldn't hold her liquor. Half a glass in, and her cheeks were apple red. Why does this feel so strong? Grace burped, the alcohol hitting her, flushing her face even more. Ethan knew she couldn't drink much and said dotingly, All right, you don't have to finish it. Eat something. Grace stuck out her pink tongue in embarrassment, feeling like she was dragging the team down. They ate steak, drank wine, and exchanged toasts. Ethan, Tank, and Henry took turns toasting Valerie, who refused no one. She drank everything. An hour later, the table was a mess of dishes, with over 20 empty bottles lined up, attracting stares from other diners and waiters. Tank was slumped on the table, mumbling drunkenly, Come, drink more, I'm not drunk. Henry was 70 or 80% gone, shaking his head to force himself to stay awake. Ethan had the highest tolerance of the three, but even just red wine hits hard eventually. He felt he was at his limit. Any more, and he wouldn't be able to walk. But looking at Valerie, although her face was flushed red, her eyes were bright and clear. No more. I'm going to pass out. Miss Vane's tolerance is terrifying. Ethan laughed bitterly, waving his hands in surrender. Valerie was practically 1v3. And she wasn't even drunk. Her tolerance. There was nothing to say. She was on par with her brother, Victor. Done already? Guess that's all you three have got. Huh? Valerie laughed triumphantly, leaning back. Ethan. Henry. The brothers exchanged a look of utter helplessness. Ethan shot Henry a look that said, Bro, I can't help you with this one. Grace, seeing Ethan's depressed look, covered her mouth and giggled, looking a bit schadenfreudish. Oh my, our President Ford has a day like this too. Ethan rolled his eyes at her. Great, even you're laughing at me? Grace held his arm, pretending innocence. No way, am I laughing? I love you so much. How could I laugh at you? Stinky Ethan. Saying that, Grace pinched Ethan's nose, her eyes curving into cute crescents. Goals. You two showing off in front of a single dog. I'm full from the dog food. I'm out, Valerie teased. All right, we've had a good time. Let's head out. I already settled the bill, Ethan said, pulling Grace up. By the way, Henry, Miss Vane sprained her ankle and has been drinking. You take her home. I'll take Tank back to the office to crash. Ethan made sure to instruct. Henry stood up and replied, Yes, Ethan. Ethan smiled. Take good care of her. See Miss Vane safely into her home. She took care of you plenty in the hospital. The implication was clear. Henry, be smart. Take her all the way inside. Henry paused, missing the subtext, and just nodded blankly. Valerie waved her hand. It's fine, I'm not drunk. You can just drop me at the curb downstairs. I'll catch a cab. Ethan insisted seriously. That won't do. Victor has been good to us, and you took care of Henry for so long. If anything happened to you, how would we explain to Victor? Let Henry see you to your door. Hearing Ethan put it that way, Valerie didn't argue and agreed to let Henry take her home. Ethan helped Tank up, and the group left the bistro. They split up at the mall entrance, catching separate cabs. Ethan and Grace took Tank back to the company. After settling Tank in the break room, Ethan returned to the president's office and collapsed on the sofa. Grace poured him a cup of honey water and brought it over. Stinky Ethan, told you not to show off. Showing off and losing TSK. Here, drink some honey water. It helps with the hangover. Ethan took the cup and gulped down a large mouthful. The warm, sweet honey water made his whole body feel fuzzy, chasing away some of the dizziness. Phew. Much better. Grace's water is the best. So sweet. Grace felt the phrasing was weird, but couldn't pinpoint why. Shut up, you smooth talker. She sat on the sofa and gently massaged his temples. Stinky Ethan, do you think? Henry drank so much. Can he get Valerie home safely? Nothing will happen, right? Ethan teased. What kind of thing do you want to happen? Grace blushed. Haven't you seen soap operas? A single man and woman, alone in a room, after drinking. I have a gut feeling. Valerie seems to be a little interested in Henry too. TSK. Hard to say in these situations. Meanwhile, in the residential compound near Chicago General Hospital, Henry carefully helped Valerie up the stairs. After unlocking the door, Valerie turned to Henry. Thanks for the hard work. Come in and rest a bit. Is it convenient? Henry felt a bit awkward. It was his first time in a girl's apartment. Nothing inconvenient about it. Come in. Valerie laughed brightly. Henry helped her inside and sat her down, then took a seat on the sofa himself. He looked around. Her furniture was sparse, the decor simple and clean, giving off a sharp, efficient vibe. Pour yourself some water. I won't play hostess. If you could, grab the liniment and rubbing alcohol from the drawer for me, Valerie said, leaning back on the sofa, relaxed. Sure. I'll get it. Henry got up to find the medicine. Valerie watched his back, the corner of her mouth twitching into a barely noticeable smile. She thought Henry seemed smart, but sometimes he felt clumsy, like he was clueless about dealing with girls, pure as a blank sheet of paper. Perhaps it was precisely because he was a blank sheet that he felt so sincere. It made him much better than the smooth-talking men she usually encountered. Back in school, she had met plenty of street types through her brother, Victor. She had seen all kinds of men. Most approached her either because of Victor or because of her face and body. But Henry wasn't like that. He made her feel safe. Being around him was easy. Are these the ones? Henry asked, turning around. Valerie snapped back to reality and nodded with a smile. Yep, those are the ones. Hand them here. Henry brought the bottles to the sofa and watched as Valerie struggled to take off her shoe. It looked difficult for her to apply the medicine herself. Do you want me to help you? Henry couldn't help but ask. Valerie looked at him in surprise. If you don't mind, I could really use the hand. Henry grinned. Hey, what's to mind? I used to apply medicine for my sister when she twisted her ankle playing. I'm a pro at this. Sister? Valerie paused. Does he see me as a sister? Am I not attractive to him at all? Yeah, my sister used to be playful and would twist her ankle occasionally. She'd be fine 2 or 3 days after I applied the stuff. Henry squatted down, opened the bottle, poured the medicinal liquor into his palm, and applied it to the swollen area on her ankle. The stinging pain made Valerie suck in a breath of cold air. Henry eased up his pressure and comforted her. It hurts a bit at first. Bear with it. It gets better. Use your strength. I can take it. Valerie gritted her teeth, determined. Moving a bit faster is fine too. It'll feel better. Henry looked surprised. Really? Then I'm going to start. At the same time, a Mercedes pulled up downstairs. Victor Vane got out of the car, followed by his right-hand man, Camel. Camel, bring the fruit up for me, Victor ordered. Yes, boss, Camel responded, grabbing a large bag of fruit from the trunk. As they reached the building entrance, Victor suddenly stopped and turned back. Actually, never mind. Don't come up. I'll go myself. Victor knew his sister didn't like seeing guys like Camel. Better to keep her happy. Although the siblings disagreed on some things and had fought about his underworld dealings, she was his biological sister. He cared about her deeply. He was at the hospital visiting some injured brothers, so he decided to drop by and see her. Victor carried the fruit upstairs. Just as he reached the door of Valerie's rental, he heard strange, squishing sounds coming from inside. F faster. I can take it. Valerie's voice drifted out, accompanied by heavy breathing. Then I'm going to use force, a man's deep voice replied. It hurts. Go easier, Valerie continued. Hold on, almost done, the man replied. Victor stood outside, struck by lightning, frozen in place. Did my sister get a boyfriend? How'd I not know? Victor raised his hand to knock, but froze mid-air. He couldn't bring himself to knock. If that really was happening inside, wouldn't knocking now be incredibly awkward? Thinking about it, Victor pulled out his phone and called her. Soon the call connected. Hello? Bro, what's up? You at home? Yeah, why? I came to see you. I'm coming up now. Almost at your door. Now? Okay. The call ended. A moment later, the door opened. But Victor didn't see Valerie. He saw Henry. Victor paused. Henry? Why are you here? He recognized Henry. He was Ethan's brother. They had met for drinks when Henry came to thank him personally. Seeing Victor's imposing presence, Henry quickly explained. Boss Vane, Miss Vane sprained her ankle. I brought her home. Victor looked into the apartment and saw Valerie with her leg up on the coffee table, airing out her right foot. It really was sprained. The heart that had been in his throat finally settled. Is that so? Thanks for the trouble. Go on in, Victor laughed. As he entered, Valerie rolled her eyes. Bro, what are you laughing at? Is my sprained ankle funny? No, I just thought. Cough, never mind. Here, I brought you some fruit. Victor laughed awkwardly, placing the fruit on the table. Valerie huffed. How do you have time to come over? Not busy with your big underworld business. Victor put on a soft face, speaking gently. I missed you. I only have one cute, beautiful sister. Henry, watching from the side, was amazed. The Reaper of Chicago. Acting like this in front of his sister? A total sister complex. Valerie giggled, covering her mouth. Save it. That line works on your ladies, not me. Spit it out, what's up? Hee, Dad's big birthday is in a few days. He wants you to come home for dinner. Don't worry, just family. No outsiders, Victor promised, patting his chest. Valerie waved her hand. All right, no problem. I'll head back a day early. By the way, bro, you drove here, right? Give Henry a ride back later. I drank at lunch. I'm sleepy now. Valerie yawned. Oh, sure. No problem, Victor replied, glancing at Henry with a look that held hidden meaning. Henry kept his expression calm, eyes forward, pretending not to notice. Half an hour later, Victor and Henry went downstairs together. They didn't speak on the way down. Once outside, Victor pulled out a cigarette and handed one to Henry. Henry, tell me the truth. Are you trying to get with my sister? Are you trying to pick up my sister? Victor Vane held out the cigarette, his eyes locked onto Henry. In that instant, an oppressive aura erupted from Victor, heavy enough to make an ordinary person struggle to breathe. But Henry's face remained calm. He took the cigarette smoothly and spoke slowly. Yeah, Boss Vane, to be honest, I do like Miss Vane. Facing Victor's formidable presence, Henry maintained a composure like a mountain that wouldn't crumble. He hadn't feared death back then, chopped 18 times without a whimper. His mental state was different from the average person. In this world, there were originally only two people he cared about, Ethan and his sister, Hannah Payne. Now, there was a third, Valerie Vane. Just these three. So no matter how sharp Victor's gaze was, it couldn't shake his inner resolve. Even if this answer might anger Victor, he didn't hide it. He didn't plan to make excuses. He chose to say it openly. Hearing this, Victor laughed. With that laugh, the imposing pressure vanished. Good kid. You got guts. Ethan didn't pick wrong. Victor slapped him on the shoulder, laughing loudly, his eyes showing a glint of appreciation. Henry, I never interfere in my sister's affairs, and I won't object to whoever she dates. But she is my biological sister. I hope she finds the right person, someone suitable. I don't want to see her get hurt. You understand? Victor lit his cigarette and handed the lighter to Henry. Henry took the lighter, lit his own, and said solemnly, Boss Vane, I know. I have a sister too, and I love her very much. I understand how an older brother feels. Victor smiled approvingly. Good that you understand. You're Ethan's brother, so you're my brother too. If you need help with anything in the future, give me a call. Saying that, Victor pulled out a business card and handed it to him, a sign of his endorsement. A smile finally appeared on Henry's face as he took the card. Thanks, Boss Vane. Victor blew a smoke ring, pondered for a moment, then said, by the way, there's something I hope you'll remind Ethan about. That big internet cafe he opened in the University District is right next to Damien Cross. Tell him to be careful. Damien is a wolf. If you're not careful, he'll take a bite out of you. Henry's expression turned serious. He nodded. Understand. Ethan mentioned him. We'll handle it carefully. Victor hummed an acknowledgement, then patted his shoulder, smiling. Let's go. Get in. I'll drop you off. The next day, Sunday, Ethan arrived at the company early to handle the 361 project matters. Knock, knock. A knock sounded at the door. Come in, Ethan called out, stopping his typing. The door opened, and Calvin Trent walked in. President, I need to consult you on something. Calvin looked grim as he walked quickly to Ethan's desk. Oh, what is it? Ethan frowned slightly. Something that made Calvin this nervous had to be big. Yesterday, I instructed Lee from Westford Electronics to coordinate with Southbridge traders regarding the shipment and pick up next week's stock. But Southbridge said the order form was incorrect and their warehouse didn't have enough stock. They sent it back for reconfirmation. I confirmed it personally yesterday. It was completely fine. It matched the order we pre-booked the week before, all confirmed with Southbridge's sales manager. Later, I called personally to ask, and Southbridge said they're implementing a dynamic supply policy. They claimed several power supply units in the order were booked by other channels, so they have no stock for us. But I never heard Southbridge issue any notice about switching to dynamic supply. This morning, I updated the order to try and get a partial shipment first, but they said all the items on the list were fully booked. The situation is that we can't get stock from Southbridge. Before, they changed to weekly pickups. Now, they won't even give us goods. This impacts Westford Electronics operations massively. If we can't get supply next week, our Westford e-commerce platform and our physical stores will face a situation where we have nothing to sell. Calvin explained the sequence of events in detail, looking worried. With years in the industry, his business instincts were sharp. He felt Southbridge was deliberately making things difficult. This was a thorny issue beyond his pay grade to handle. So, he reported it to Ethan immediately. Ethan listened, his brow furrowing, his eyes turning cold. It seemed this move was definitely Frank Zane's doing. Had Frank already realized Westford Group was in contact with the provincial distributor, Keytech? Don't panic. I'll call Frank and ask about the situation, Ethan said calmly. When facing this kind of thing, panic was the enemy. First, determine the opponent's goal and the reason for their actions. Only by understanding the situation could they make a targeted move. All right, President, it's best if you handle it. Calvin nodded repeatedly. Ethan took out his phone and called Frank Zane. The phone rang, but it wasn't picked up quickly. It rang for over 10 seconds before connecting. Brother Ford, calling so early in the morning. Is something the matter? Frank's lazy voice came from the other end, completely lacking his previous warmth. Ethan sensed the change in tone, but suppressed his coldness, putting on a warm smile. Brother Zane, I'm not disturbing you, am I? Just wanted to ask you something. I'm not doing much right now. Ask away, Frank said. Brother Zane, I heard from my people that your company is doing some dynamic supply thing. The stock we pre-ordered is unavailable. Is that true? Ethan asked with a patient smile. Oh, right. There is such a thing. I borrowed a supply strategy from abroad. We just implemented it not long ago, and we're preparing to send notices to our channel partners. Brother Ford, you know how fast the computer market is growing right now. But the manufacturers aren't producing enough. I don't get much stock from the provincial distributors either. Supply is tight. If I don't adjust, other partners will have complaints, Frank explained. Hearing this, Ethan's face went completely cold like frost. Frank's words clearly meant he was deliberately targeting Westford Group, changing supply strategies without prior notice, using other distributors as an excuse, suppressing stock, and even refusing to supply. Anyone with half a brain knew this was Frank's warning to Westford. A supply cut warning. Ethan spoke calmly. Brother Zane, business shouldn't be done this way. If you do this, what about my stock for next week? What about the future? A cold laugh came from the other end of the line. Brother Ford, some things indeed shouldn't be done. But you going around me to contact Keytech. What does that mean? Ethan understood immediately. He really had found out about the contact with Keytech. Although the moves had been secretive, Keytech must have leaked the information. Since it had come to this, Ethan simply smiled faintly. That's right. I did contact Keytech. That is an internal matter for Westford Company. Does it have anything to do with Southbridge traders? The implication was, my business is none of your business. On the other end, Frank sneered. Ethan, I thought you were a smart kid. If you and I cooperated, the market in Chicago, even the whole state, would be ours. Doing this, you're cutting off your own lifeline. Mr. Zane, a lifeline shouldn't be in someone else's hands. It should be under your own feet. Also, you don't need to worry about my small company. I don't feel I need a partner, Ethan said calmly. This was his first direct refusal of Frank's partnership proposal. Since they had shown their cards and flipped the table, there was no need to hide anything. Frank's voice turned cold. Is that so? Mr. Ford, I think you will regret this decision. The sound cut off abruptly. Frank had hung up. This signaled that Southbridge Traders and West Ford Group had completely broken ties. Ethan remained expressionless, putting down his phone and leaning back in his leather chair to think. The president's office fell into a dead silence. Calvin Trent stood by listening. He had heard snippets of the call, and, judging by Ethan's attitude and tone, this was big. West Ford Group had fallen out with Chicago's largest computer parts supplier, Southbridge Traders. He didn't speak, just watched Ethan, waiting for orders. Taking 3 deep breaths, he mentally prepared himself to handle whatever chaos was coming. After a long while, Ethan spoke. Calvin, draft a group announcement. I'll release it personally. Roughly, West Ford Company is suspending all cooperation and personnel exchanges with Southbridge Traders effective immediately. I'll have Ross Lawton from Legal draft a lawyer's letter to send to Southbridge. We'll sue them for breach of contract. You focus on stabilizing internal operations. I'll solve the supply issue as soon as possible. I'll try to replenish stock before next week. Hearing this arrangement, Calvin was slightly surprised, but he nodded firmly. Yes, President. I'll get on it immediately. He understood. Ethan was striking first. In the contract, West Ford was the buyer, Party A. Striking first to sue Party B offered some hope. It would put Southbridge on the defensive, forcing them to spend energy preparing a response. And West Ford's head of legal, Ross Lawton, was no ordinary lawyer. Before joining West Ford, he was a professor at the University of Law. He was undefeated. Ethan's decisiveness and ruthlessness were what surprised him. Calvin gave Ethan a deep look, then turned and left the office to get to work. Ethan was left alone in the office. He spun his phone, various strategies flashing through his mind. The priority was solving the supply problem. He had to secure the city dealership from Key Tech. Southbridge would definitely act immediately. Not only would they cut supply completely, but they would also use their influence to call on other related distributors to block supply. At least within Chicago, many part suppliers would likely cut him off. And according to agency agreements, distributors in other cities weren't allowed to cross-sell. If caught, the consequences were severe, so getting stock from other cities was a dead end. There was only one path now. Secure the city dealership from Key Tech ASAP. Ethan called Henry. After a moment, it connected. Ethan, Henry, we've shown our hand to Southbridge. Push on that side. Arrange a negotiation meeting for tomorrow. I'll go personally this time, Ethan ordered. Okay, I'll call them right now and report back as soon as I have news, Henry responded, his voice steady. Good. Ethan nodded. After hanging up, Henry called back shortly after. Ethan picked up. What's the situation? Manager Cruz agreed to a meeting tomorrow, but it has to be at Key Tech's office. His direct superior will be there too. They'll decide whether to do a dinner after the discussion, Henry replied. Ethan frowned. Before, scheduling dinners had been smooth. Even if they couldn't make the time, they would agree to it. But now, a dinner required discussion? Key Tech must have had a change of heart or new concerns. No problem. We'll go there personally tomorrow. We must secure it in one trip. Henry, come to my office now, Ethan said calmly. Okay, I'm on my way, Henry replied. At that moment, the door opened and Ross Lawton from legal walked in. Ross smiled. President, you looked for me? Meanwhile, at Southbridge Traders, Frank Zane paced his office, smoking. Frank, want some coffee? Lana Cole walked in expressionless, carrying a cup. Not in the mood. Lana, aside from making tea and coffee, what can you do? Put your mind on work. Frank scolded impatiently. Lana's expression dimmed. She lowered her head without replying, silently placing the coffee on the table. At this moment, her heart was ice cold. Since the last incident, she had completely given up on this relationship. She lived her work and life like a walking corpse. Lana, that kid, Ethan showed his hand. He specifically went around us to contact Key Tech. That kid wants a piece of Key Tech's city dealership rights too. And he explicitly rejected my partnership offer. Damn it. Frank took a drag of his cigarette, fury burning in his chest. Frank, what do you want to do? Lana looked up and asked. Frank thought for a moment, then said coldly, "Pass the order down. Terminate supply to West Ford Company starting today. And tell Charlie Boone and Joe Thompson they aren't allowed to supply West Ford either. I want to see what they'll sell without stock. Oh, and have Morty Banks from sales execute the frontline market plan. Set up a branch office. Open the store right next to the West Ford Electronics store. If they have nothing to sell, I have plenty. I'm going to eat their market share." Lana murmured an acknowledgement and backed out. Once outside the office, she took a resignation letter from her pocket, clutching in her hand. But in the end, she put the letter back. She turned around and went back into the office. "Frank, these past few days, I've really wanted to know. How did you handle the one at home? And what are we really? Tell me seriously. Since you met me, have you ever truly loved me?" Even for a moment, Lana stared at him, tears in her eyes. Frank frowned and scolded. "Why are you bringing this up now? Do your job first. I'll find time to talk to you properly." Lana saw the impatience on his face, the dismissal. Now, Frank didn't even bother with basic concealment. But Lana already had her answer. She gave a miserable smile, pale and desperate. "Okay, I understand, Mr. Zane." With that, Lana wiped her tears and turned to leave. "Ross, regarding Southbridge Traders, are you confident we can win?" Ethan sat on the sofa, lighting a cigarette. Ross Lawton flipped through the cooperation agreements between West Ford and Southbridge, smiling. "Win or not, we have to fight to know. But I can confirm that we have the advantage. According to this supply agreement, which has relatively equal rights and responsibilities, if they really cut off our supply, there's a factual basis in court. I'm confident we can win the lawsuit. However, if we can get hold of internal documents proving their cutoff was purposeful, our chances would improve significantly." Ethan smiled. "That works. You're in charge of following up on this. The lawyer's letter can go out today." "No problem, President. I'll go prepare it now." Ross stood up. "All right, go ahead." Ethan nodded. Ross turned to leave and ran into Henry rushing in. "Hey, Ross, if you're handling it, you got to get Frank Zane at least 3 years, right?" Henry joked, rarely. "Come on. If I were the judge, I'd say 9 years minimum. The president is waiting for you. I'm off." Ross shook his head and laughed. "All right, catch you later." Henry nodded. Henry walked quickly to Ethan and handed him a file. "Ethan, I've summarized their main requirements based on recent contacts. Take a look." Henry sat down and said seriously, "According to Manager Cruz, to replace the existing city distributor, we need to at least surpass their sales volume. Based on the data I collected and info from Cruz, the current city distributor, Oakland Electronics, purchased about $3 million worth of stock from Keytech last year. Recently, due to internal struggles at Oakland and weakening demand in Chicago compared to Pittsburgh and New York, plus fierce competition from other parts, Oakland sales in Chicago have dropped significantly this year. Keytech has been thinking about changing agents for a while. However, they're still selecting and negotiating with new partners. We're just one of them." Cruz confirmed that Southbridge Traders has also expressed interest and has been actively in contact recently. Ethan smoked while flipping through the document, his expression calm. After a while, he asked, "Your info is very detailed. Keytech requires sales volume, annual growth rate, corporate strength, stability, and so on. I think West Ford Group can totally take this. If supply is sufficient, with the growth of West Ford e-commerce, electronics, and gaming, $3 million is nothing." Ethan put down the file, a confident smile on his lips. He flicked the ash from his cigarette and looked at Henry. "Targeting $5 million in sales with an annual growth rate of no less than 20%. I see no problem at all. We can even sign a valuation adjustment mechanism, a VM agreement, with Keytech. That's fine. Plus, I have an ace in the hole. I trust they'll be interested." Henry asked, puzzled. "Ethan, what ace?" "A $150,000 cash purchase contract." Ethan blew a smoke ring and said leisurely. Henry looked enlightened. "Right, that's our negotiating advantage. I didn't dare reveal it easily without your permission, but it can definitely be put on the table." Ethan laughed. "We have to use it well tomorrow. Henry, come with me to the bank later. We're withdrawing $150,000 in cash." "Huh? Cash?" Henry paused. Ethan nodded. "Exactly. That's enough for a visual impact. It'll make them feel our sincerity. I must secure this city dealership qualification." The next morning, Keytech headquarters. Manager Cruz took a stack of documents and walked quickly to the general manager's office, knocking on the door. "Come in." A raspy voice came from inside. Cruz pushed the door open and said respectfully, "Mr. Young, here are the documents you wanted on West Ford Company. They've recently restructured, so they should be called West Ford Group now." He handed the file to an older man wearing a white shirt, with snow-white hair and gold-rimmed glasses. The man looked refined and wise. This was Keytech's general manager of business, Lloyd Young. Oh, didn't you say their company was established less than a year ago? Restructured so soon? Lloyd asked, surprised. From what I understand, they're developing very fast. You could say changing with each passing day. My former professor spoke very highly of West Ford's President Ford. Cruz smiled slightly. He was putting a good word for West Ford largely because of Professor Hall. He had received a lot of care from Hall back in school, so when Hall asked him to look out for them, he naturally spoke up to do his part. But he didn't have decisive power in this matter. The person who could truly make the call was his boss, Lloyd Young. Only if Lloyd signed off, submitted it to the board for review, and finally got the owner's signature, would it be decided. In this matter, Lloyd was key. Lloyd didn't look at the file. Instead, he looked up and gave Cruz a deep stare. Stared at. Cruz felt like his little thoughts were seen through. He lowered his head, not daring to make eye contact. Cruz, you can't just look at the surface of people, and you certainly can't rely on hearsay. The Chicago market is important to us. We need to be cautious, Lloyd remarked pointedly. The implication was, don't speak up for others. Yes, Mr. Young's guidance is correct. I'll reflect on myself. Cruz stood at attention. Only then did Lloyd open the file and read carefully. This file is much more detailed than the one I saw before. Did West Ford assist in providing the content? Lloyd asked calmly. He could see the difference between the two files at a glance and knew the score. Cruz didn't dare hide it. Yes, they assisted. From the file, they do meet the qualifications and have the capability. But we still have to see if they really have what it takes to handle the Chicago market. Lloyd tapped the desk. Cruz checked his watch. According to the scheduled time, they should be arriving soon. We have a meeting negotiation with West Ford Group this morning. I know. Go receive them. I'll wait in the conference room. Lloyd waved his hand. Cruz responded and hesitated for a moment before saying, Mr. King from Sunrise Tech sent someone to bring you some coffee beans. Should I bring them in for you? Lloyd raised an eyebrow, then smiled. Bring them in. That's good stuff. Okay, I'll get them right away. Cruz smiled. Cruz trotted out and soon returned with a high-end box. He placed it in front of Lloyd. Lloyd glanced at it, then put the beans into his bottommost, most secret drawer. Cruz, being observant, noticed this detail and felt a bit surprised because Lloyd didn't put the box with his other coffees. But he didn't think much of it. His phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and immediately said, Mr. Young, the people from West Ford Group should be here. All right, go receive them. Lloyd Young stood up and straightened his clothes. Yes, sir. Manager Cruz answered, then picked up the phone. Hello, Mr. Payne. Good to hear from you. You're already downstairs? Okay, wait a moment. I'll come down to get you. After hanging up, Cruz left the office and headed to the lobby of the office building. When he arrived at the lobby, he saw Henry and also noticed a young man in a suit beside him. He quickly went up to greet them. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Payne. Manager Cruz, good to see you. Let me introduce you. This is the president of our West Ford Group, Ethan Ford. Henry introduced him with a smile. Cruz was secretly shocked. This young man who looked so youthful was the president of West Ford Group. It was his first time meeting Ethan. He had only heard about him from Professor Hall. He heard he was a young talent and assumed he'd be at least 30. But the person in front of him looked barely in his early 20s. Truly incredible. President Ford, hello. I am Keytech's business manager, Cruz. It's an honor to meet you for the first time. I often hear Professor Hall mention you. He praises you constantly. Cruz reached out and shook Ethan's hand warmly. Ethan smiled amiably. Professor Hall also told me you're a loyal friend. He said if I wanted to work with Keytech, I had to find you. You've been a huge help. I really need to thank you. Speaking of which, having studied under Professor Hall, we're practically alumni. Ethan put on zero airs. He even used the connection with Hall to pull their relationship closer, framing them as fellow students. Cruz was flattered and quickly said, Oh, President Ford is too kind. Professor Hall helped me a lot in school. I'm someone who repays kindness. If I can help, I won't hesitate. After some pleasantries, Cruz extended his hand. Come, follow me up. Our general manager, Mr. Lloyd Young, is already waiting for you in the conference room. Ethan nodded and gestured for him to lead the way. The three went upstairs to Keytech. Cruz led them straight to the conference room. Cruz opened the door. There was only one person inside. Lloyd Young stood up from the head seat to welcome them. Welcome, President Ford, Mr. Payne. Lloyd put on a full smile and welcomed them warmly. Although the smile was a bit fake, purely business etiquette, Ethan smiled back just as warmly and shook his hand. Mr. Young, hello. I've heard so much about you. The anchor of Keytech. Ethan acted deeply impressed as if meeting an idol. Before coming, he had done his homework on Lloyd. The industry rating for Lloyd was quite high. Keytech's growth was inseparable from Lloyd's pioneering work. Oh, what anchor! Just an undeserved reputation from outsiders. On the other hand, President Ford, managing West Ford Group at such a young age and achieving such results in less than a year. It's amazing. Lloyd returned the compliment. The two exchanged flattery and pleasantries, chatting enthusiastically as if they were old friends reuniting. Only Henry got goosebumps listening to their conversation. He found it hard to say such polite nothings. It felt too fake, too hypocritical coming from him. Listening to these two speak such hypocritical pleasantries with such gusto, that kind of mental fortitude wasn't something ordinary people possessed. At the very least, you needed thick skin. After the small talk, everyone took their seats and the meeting officially began. Down to business. Ethan took a file from his bag and handed it to Lloyd. He smiled. Mr. Young, this is a market research report on the Chicago computer parts market prepared by West Ford Group. Please take a look. Our subsidiary, West Ford Electronics, currently has 8 computer stores in Chicago. In the future, we plan to expand to at least 20 offline stores and 2 service centers in the city, creating a scale where there's a West Ford Electronics store within every 5-mile living circle. Within the next 3 years, our offline store plan will expand to the entire tri-state area. West Ford Group not only possesses the largest offline retail channel in Chicago, but also the most advanced store management model. Our metrics in inventory turnover, personnel efficiency, after-sales efficiency, and repurchase rates are among the best in the industry in Chicago. This is the foundation that allows West Ford Electronics to replicate and expand rapidly. I believe that our channels, combined with your company's supply, will achieve a 1 + 1 is greater than 2 effect. Reaching a cooperation agreement is a win-win. Your company holds 30% of the state's computer parts market share and represents multiple domestic and international manufacturers. That is exactly what we need. For West Ford Electronics to expand rapidly, we cannot do without a stable supply of goods. Ethan spoke with assurance, his tone unhurried, neither humble nor arrogant, confident and composed. He laid out their basic situation and advantages, then stated his needs and the benefits of cooperation. Straight to the point, putting all cards on the table. Lloyd flipped through the report while listening, nodding occasionally. After Ethan finished, Lloyd closed the report and said, President Ford, this report is very detailed. I can see you prepared for a long time, and I can feel your sincerity. I'm very happy about that. Hearing this, Henry couldn't help but show a look of joy. There's a chance. But in the next moment, Lloyd continued, however, compared to our other partners and distributors, we have some concerns about this direct store model. If you used a 3-tier distribution model, wouldn't you be able to expand faster? Take Oakland Electronics, for example. They have over 30 third-tier dealer partners, covering Chicago and the surrounding areas. Or Southbridge Traders. They have quite a few partners too. Lloyd phrased it politely, but the meaning was clear. Can your direct store model compete with a 3-tier distribution model? The 3-tier distribution model was very mature domestically and widely applied across industries. The chain and cooperation methods were very clear. Currently, there was no precedent for a successful direct store model in the state. This was Lloyd's doubt. 8 stores or even 20 in the future might look like the most for a single channel, but compared to the scale of cities and towns reached by 3-tier distributors, it was still too small. Plus, with no successful precedents for the direct model, it was hard to be convinced. Lloyd looked calm. He tapped the table. President Ford, to put it bluntly, why should I believe your direct model will succeed? Lloyd Young's comment instantly cooled the atmosphere in the conference room. The smile on Henry Payne's face stiffened. He hadn't expected Lloyd to raise doubts in this particular area. He was about to speak up anxiously, but Ethan Ford raised a hand to stop him. Ethan spoke calmly, standing in Mr. Young's shoes. It's normal to have concerns. The 3-tier distribution model has been active across various industries for many years, which proves it has its merits. However, his tone shifted. Everything is evolving. We need to look at things with a developmental eye. The internet has been sprouting domestically since 1996, and after 4 years, it's gradually becoming popularized in core cities. New marketing models have emerged. 2-tier direct sales, or even manufacturer direct sales, are not impossible. Reducing sales layers can shorten the product turnover cycle and allow for more profit to be passed on to consumers. This is healthy competition between new and old models. Mr. Young, through our operational verification during this period, our direct sales model is indeed more competitive than the original model. Whether it's front-end sales or after-sales service for users, We can provide better service and more cost-effective prices. I am full of confidence in our business model. Ethan explained the pros and cons of both models to him again. Any normal person could hear the advantages and disadvantages. After listening, Lloyd nodded and smiled slightly. Mr. Ford is indeed brilliant. However, coming back to the point, business always considers risk factors. The new model is desirable, but without actual experience, it represents uncertainty for us. Ethan smiled frankly. What if we add this? Ethan pulled another document from his bag and handed it to him. Lloyd was puzzled. He took the document and looked through it, a look of surprise increasingly appearing on his face. Guaranteed annual sales of $6 million? Mr. Ford, you aren't joking. Lloyd asked in astonishment. Mr. Young, this is the sincerity of our West Ford Group. If sales do not reach $6 million in 1 year, we will voluntarily make up the difference and voluntarily terminate the cooperation. Ethan's tone was firm and confident. Lloyd was shocked. What a bold young man. To dare to sign such an ironclad guarantee was something very few people could do. This agreement could be said to be full of sincerity. From any angle, he saw no possibility of refusal. The current distributor's annual sales were only around $3.5 million, and there had been no growth for consecutive years. The company had long lost patience with the city distributor. He didn't expect Ethan to dare to raise the sales target to over $6 million in one breath. Lloyd came back to his senses, thought for a moment, and smiled with admiration. Mr. Ford, being able to show such confidence and sincerity really makes me admire you. You are full of drive and boldness. You flatter me, Mr. Young. I came here with the attitude that this deal must be made. Ethan stared at him intently. Lloyd hesitated slightly and said, From any perspective, I seem to have no reason to refuse cooperation. However, we haven't talked to other parties yet, such as Sunrise Tech or Southbridge Traders. Mr. Ford might need to wait a few days. Ethan raised an eyebrow. He came here to negotiate to win the cooperation, and he didn't want any variables to arise halfway through. Not winning it now would give competitors a chance, and West Ford Electronics inventory couldn't wait much longer. Ethan took out a third document and handed it to Lloyd. Mr. Young, besides discussing the agency cooperation today, there is actually one more thing. Our West Ford Group subsidiary, West Ford Electronics, has currently opened 3 internet cafes and needs to purchase a total of 600 complete computer systems and other accessories. After picking and choosing, I feel that most of Key Tech's mid to high-end products fit our needs very well. What? 600 mid to high-end computers? Lloyd asked in shock. He understood how much this business was worth. At least $400,000. Even Manager Cruz beside him was stunned. This was a huge order. This single order was enough to complete 1/10 of the annual sales target. Lloyd felt he was losing his composure a bit. He suppressed his inner excitement and thought carefully. He understood that Ethan was using this big order as a bargaining chip for the negotiation. If he secured this order, the sales commission he would get would be substantial. This was also equivalent to giving him benefits in a disguised form. Thinking of this, Lloyd secretly sighed in his heart. This young man in front of him was indeed not simple. Mr. Ford, Lloyd was just about to speak. Ethan continued. I think this is mutually beneficial for both parties, Mr. Young. After speaking, Ethan gave Henry a look. Henry nodded, lifted 2 large briefcases, and placed them on the table. The large briefcases were almost the size of luggage. Manager Cruz was stunned when he saw these 2 cases. He had been wondering what was inside, guessing it was a large amount of documents needed for cooperation or some samples. Lloyd was equally puzzled and asked, Mr. Ford, this is... Ethan smiled slightly. This is our sincerity. Henry, open them. Henry responded, open one of the briefcases first, and turn the case around. The next moment, both Lloyd and Manager Cruz were shocked. It was cash. A big suitcase full of cash. Henry then opened the second briefcase. It was also cash, stacks of $100 bills. Lloyd and Manager Cruz were stunned by the scene before them. The visual impact brought by cash was unparalleled. Manager Cruz clicked his tongue in secret. He had never seen so much money in his life. It was too damn shocking. How much was this? Lloyd had seen a lot of the world, but looking at so much money, a greedy look still appeared in his eyes. However, he quickly recovered and said seriously, It seems Mr. Ford is determined to win today. If he didn't agree today, he was afraid he wouldn't get this big order either. Ethan smiled calmly. Of course I hope Mr. Young can give me an answer today. The $150,000 here is the advance payment for our West Ford Gaming's computer procurement. The total budget is between $400,000 and $500,000. This, Manager Cruz took a deep breath. Such a high procurement amount. Calculating the personal commission, that would be a huge sum of money. Thinking of this, Cruz secretly regretted that he wouldn't get a share. His direct superior was here, so the credit for this order would definitely go to the leader. He was a little envious of Lloyd. Looking at so much money, Lloyd felt a little parched. He gave a wry smile and said, "Mr. Ford, you're the most interesting young man I have ever met. Truly a young talent. You've shown such high sincerity. How can I refuse? I believe the West Ford Group will definitely be Key Tech's best partner in the future. No, it's starting now today." Huh. Lloyd stood up and extended his hand to Ethan. "Mr. Ford, on behalf of Key Tech, I am very happy to cooperate with your company." Ethan also stood up, reached out, and shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for your trust, Mr. Young. Here's to a pleasant cooperation." Henry and Manager Cruz stood up and applauded. Finally, the deal was done. The stone in Henry's heart finally fell to the ground. Next, it was time to deal with Southbridge traders. TSK. If Frank Zane heard this news, would he die of anger? An hour later, in Lloyd Young's office, the four of them sat at the tea table, drinking coffee and chatting. Come, Mr. Ford, taste this coffee." Lloyd's face was glowing as he personally poured coffee for Ethan. Ethan wasn't polite. He picked it up and smelled it first. The aroma was rich. He took a sip and praised, "Good coffee, excellent coffee. This must be Private Reserve Blue Mountain, right? And the quality is extremely high. The brew is clear, the color is rich amber, the aroma is intense, and it has a smooth, sweet finish." Lloyd was surprised. "Amazing. I didn't expect Mr. Ford to be a coffee connoisseur. You guessed it from just that. Not bad. This is indeed Private Reserve Blue Mountain. A friend who owns a plantation sent it to me. Top grade. He usually keeps this kind of bean for himself and only occasionally gives them away." Ethan said modestly, "Oh, I was just guessing casually. Got lucky. Knock, knock." At this moment, Lloyd's secretary knocked and entered, holding documents in her hand. She walked up to Ethan and said, "Mr. Ford, your fax documents have returned." Ethan stood up. "Okay, thank you for the trouble." "You're welcome." The secretary responded with a slight bow, handing him the documents. Ethan took the documents and looked through them. This was the strategic cooperation agreement between West Ford Group and Key Tech, which included the agency contract. Ethan had faxed the document back to let Ross Lawton from the legal department look it over first. Now Ross had faxed the document back with legal opinions. Currently, all legal contracts for the West Ford Group had to pass through Ross's hands for drafting and review, with Ethan doing the final check. After carefully reading it, apart from modifying some detailed wording, there were no changes. The agreement was balanced for both parties. Ethan handed the document to Lloyd again and smiled. "Mr. Young, I have no issues on my side. Take a look." Lloyd took the document and looked through it carefully as well. After a long while, he also smiled. I also think it's fine. No problem. Cruz, tell the legal department to draft it based on this." Manager Cruz stood up and responded, "Yes, Mr. Young." Cruz quickly had the contract drafted and handed it to both parties for signatures and seals. Everything was settled. "Mr. Ford, in the blink of an eye, it's almost lunchtime. How about we have a meal together later to celebrate our cooperation?" Lloyd suggested. "Sure, I had the exact same intention. I'm happy today." "It's settled then. We won't go home until we're drunk." Ethan joked. "No problem. Not going home until drunk." Lloyd laughed, not backing down at all. Then he turned to his secretary and said, "Stella, you escort Mr. Ford downstairs first. I'll change into casual clothes and come down." The secretary named Stella was in her 30s, with wavy hair and a curvy figure, looking like a ripe peach, full of mature charm. "Okay, Mr. Young." "Mr. Ford, please," Stella said respectfully. Ethan nodded and left Lloyd's office first. After watching Ethan leave, Lloyd took a box of coffee beans from his drawer and handed it to Cruz. "Cruz, if the people from Sunrise Tech come looking for me, give the gift back." "Okay." Cruz was stunned for a moment, then agreed. Returning a gift someone sent wasn't a good signal. However, Mr. Young must have his own considerations for doing this, and Cruz didn't intend to probe deeply. "You go take care of Mr. Ford first. I'll come after I change my clothes," Lloyd ordered. "Yes, Mr. Young." Cruz responded with a bow and left. Walking out of the office, Cruz held the high-end coffee box in both hands in the hallway, looking down at it. He noticed it was still wrapped in film. He was also curious about what kind of beans were inside to make Lloyd value them so much. But thinking about it, he decided against it. Unpacking someone else's gift privately wasn't appropriate, especially a gift for a leader. That was suicidal behavior. He put the coffee box back in his own desk drawer and then went downstairs to find Ethan. On the other side, in the lobby lounge downstairs. Seeing Stella go out to book the restaurant and arrange vehicles, Ethan turned to Henry Payne and said, "Henry, give me the watch we bought." "Ethan, are you going to give it to Manager Cruz?" Henry asked in a low voice. Ethan hummed an affirmative and smiled. "Henry, you haven't come out to negotiate business with me many times. I know you don't like dealing with people too much, but you have to remember one thing. Anyone who has helped you in business, you must remember their kindness. Regardless of their status or position, you must repay them. He helps you, you return the favor. This is called reciprocity, and it's also the way of the world." Henry seemed to understand and nodded heavily. "Yes, Ethan, I understand." After a while, Cruz saw Ethan and Henry in the lounge area and went up to greet them. "Mr. Ford, Mr. Payne, you're here. Seat next to him." Ethan patted the seat next to him, signaling him to sit down, his tone friendly. Cruz was a bit flattered, but he still sat obediently to the side. According to status, he knew he wasn't qualified to sit right next to Ethan. Sitting side by side with a leader was a big taboo. Ethan handed him a Parliament cigarette. He took it with both hands. "Ah, thank you, Mr. Ford." Ethan shook his head and smiled. "No need to be so polite. We are all students of Professor Hall. We are all on the same side." Saying that, Ethan handed one to Henry as well, and finally took one out for himself. Just as he was about to light it, Cruz actively handed over a lighter, signaling to light Ethan's cigarette. Ethan looked at him appreciatively. This guy knew how to conduct himself. "Cruz, being able to close the cooperation with Key Tech today is all thanks to you." Ethan exhaled smoke and expressed his gratitude to Cruz. "Oh, this is a win-win cooperation, and it's also what I should do," Cruz said embarrassedly, not daring to take credit. Ethan patted his shoulder gently and said warmly, "You don't need to be modest. You really helped me a lot. Professor Hall was right. You are very loyal. Mr. Ford flatters me." Cruz waved his hands repeatedly. Ethan took out an exquisite watch box from his bag, placed it in his hands, and smiled. "This is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it." When Cruz saw the Cartier logo printed on the watch box, his heart jumped. This gift was not light. How was this a small token? This watch started at least at $2,000. He asked in astonishment, how can I accept this? "Mr. Ford, Ethan smiled and interrupted him. "If you don't accept it, how can I explain it to Professor Hall when I go back? If he finds out, won't he scold me?" Ethan used Professor Hall's name to make him accept the gift, framing it as if accepting the gift was doing him a favor. Hearing this, a look of relief appeared on Cruz's face, and he said gratefully, "All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ford." "Haha, why be polite? We're on the same team," Ethan said with a beaming smile. Cruz put the gift into his bag, and his conversation with Ethan became much closer. The three smoked and chatted. After a good while, Lloyd appeared, having changed into loose casual clothes. "Oh my, I'm really sorry to keep you waiting. Stella has already booked a private room at the restaurant. Let's head out," Lloyd called out. "All right." Ethan extinguished his cigarette and stood up smiling. The group went out. Stella had already arranged for cars to wait at the door. Lloyd and Ethan sat in one car with Stella accompanying in the passenger seat, while Cruz and Henry sat in the car behind. Not long after the car drove off, Lloyd's phone suddenly rang. He took out his phone, glanced at it, and then answered the call. Hello, Mr. Zane." Ethan was sitting right next to him and couldn't help but reveal a smile. The faint voice coming from the phone was exactly Frank Zane's voice. "Mr. Zane, I'm a bit busy right now. Later, I'll call you back later." Lloyd made an excuse to hang up. With Ethan in the car, it wasn't a place to talk. At this moment, Ethan suddenly spoke up with a smile. "Mr. Young, is that Mr. Zane from Southbridge Traders? Let me say a few words to him. He and I are old friends." You know each other?" Lloyd covered the phone and asked in surprise. "Of course I know him. We're very close." Ethan laughed. Lloyd was startled, so he said to Frank Zane on the other end, "Mr. Zane, Mr. Ford from West Ford Group wants to talk to you." Ethan then took the phone and said in a teasing tone, "Hello there, brother Frank. It's Ethan Ford." At this moment, on the other end of the line, Frank Zane's face instantly turned black when he heard Ethan's voice. "Ethan Ford." Frank Zane's face was gloomy. He hadn't expected Ethan to be with Lloyd Young right now. He could guess with his toes that Ethan had already stepped ahead of him and successfully contacted Lloyd, or even He suspected that Ethan had already reached a cooperation agreement with Keytech. Thinking of this, a burst of anger rose in his heart, and he was filled with pent-up frustration. Damn it, beaten to the punch by Ethan. Ethan, why are you there too? Frank suppressed his inner anger and said through gritted teeth. From the other end of the phone came Ethan's mocking laughter. Nothing much. Just discussing some matters with Mr. Young. Don't worry, we're having a great chat. By the way, Brother Frank, let me tell you some good news. Westford and Keytech have reached a cooperation agreement. How about it? You're happy for me too, right? Hearing this, Frank was so angry he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Fuck, this kid Ethan was rubbing salt in the wound. Damn it, he really let him snatch the city agency rights for Keytech first. This was going to be tricky. Frank's face changed colors repeatedly, finally turning a deep purple. He wished he could smash the phone and never hear Ethan's voice again. Is that so, Brother Ethan? Then congratulations to you. However, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't celebrate too early. Celebrating too early often leads to sorrow, Frank said, grinding his teeth in hatred. Ethan smiled slightly. Rest assured, brother, I am indeed very happy right now. I'm going to have dinner with Mr. Young in a bit. You don't need to worry about me. Hearing that Ethan was going to have dinner with Lloyd, Frank was so angry he hung up the phone directly. Fuck. Frank raised his hand, about to smash the phone on the ground, but his hand stopped in mid-air and didn't throw it down. He took a deep breath and calmed down. After being in business for so many years, he almost let Ethan break his mental state. Fortunately, he calmed down at the last moment. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been driven mad with anger long ago. He lowered his hand, squeezed the phone tightly, and gritted his teeth. Ethan Ford, we aren't finished yet. Since you refused to cooperate, don't blame me. On the other side, inside the car, Ethan returned the phone to Lloyd with a beaming smile. My brother Frank is probably busy with something. He hung up suddenly. Ethan said lightly. Lloyd looked at Ethan strangely, muttering in his heart, are he and Mr. Zane really on good terms? Is that so? It's fine, I guess. Mr. Zane didn't have anything important to discuss with me anyway. Lloyd said this for Ethan to hear. The meaning was that since both parties had finalized the cooperation, whatever the third party did now was useless, so Ethan could be at ease. Ethan naturally understood the meaning and laughed. Ha, you were right, Mr. Young. The two looked at each other and smiled, understanding each other tacitly. Before long, the two cars arrived at the Cloudview Hotel. Stella personally opened the car door for Ethan, taking good care of him. The group entered the reserved private room in the hotel together. Gourmet food and fine wine were served one after another. They didn't discuss work matters much, just drank and chatted simply to connect and build feelings. At the dinner table, there were some rules about what situations were appropriate for talking business and what weren't. If it was a meal with mutual requests, business would usually be discussed slowly after eating and drinking enough, with each side throwing out conditions. This was a business meal. If one side was asking for a favor, they had to let the other party know the request in advance. If the other party agreed to come, half the battle was won. Then, by observing expressions and taking good care of them during the drinking session to satisfy them, the requested matter would likely succeed. Besides these two, there were wine parties with different interest purposes. The types were complicated and had to be decided based on the on-site situation. But this time, it was a celebration dinner. Everything that needed to be discussed had been discussed. Talking about it again would be superfluous. The focus should be on drawing the relationship closer, laying a relationship foundation for smooth cooperation and work development in the future. After 3 rounds of toasts, the atmosphere became lively. Ethan called him Brother Lloyd repeatedly, acting extremely affectionate. Lloyd also called him Brother repeatedly, and they even put their arms around each other intimately. Henry watched from the side, dumbfounded. If someone who didn't know saw this scene, they would think the two were about to become sworn brothers. This drinking session lasted from noon until the sun went down in the afternoon, a full 4 hours. Manager Cruz had already drunk himself into unconsciousness, and Lloyd was 80 or 90% drunk, having thrown up once. If he drank any more, he would be lying down alongside Cruz. Smoking a cigarette, with bleary eyes, Ethan nudged Lloyd with his hand. Brother Lloyd, drinking with you today was very enjoyable. I am very happy. In the future, when I treat you, you have to come. Lloyd was already incoherent and nodded repeatedly. No problem. I will definitely go. We are brothers, on the same team. No need to say more. At this moment, Stella stepped forward. Mr. Ford, the cars have been arranged. Ethan waved his big hand and shouted, Secretary Stella, you don't need to worry about us. You send Mr. Young back first. Henry and I can walk by ourselves. Don't worry. Stella hesitated for a moment, but looking at the gray-haired Lloyd who seemed unable to hold on much longer, she had to say, "All right then. I'm really sorry, Mr. Ford, for the poor hospitality. I'll send Mr. Young and manager Cruz back first." The hotel waiters and Stella helped the two out together. Only Ethan and Henry were left in the private room. Henry had also drunk a lot, and his face was flushed, but he seemed to still have some clarity and wasn't completely drunk. Ethan smoked a cigarette and handed one to him, smiling. "How about it? Not drunk, right? Have a cigarette to sober up." As he spoke, Ethan's eyes gradually regained clarity, showing no signs of being drunk. Henry took the cigarette, lit it himself, and revealed a bitter smile. "I finally understand Tank a little bit. He's the one for drinking. I'm not cut out for it." He had a very clear understanding of his own abilities. He could work, but negotiating, drinking, and socializing were things he was far from good at. Or rather, by nature, his personality wasn't quite suitable for dealing with people, especially those businessmen who were as shrewd as old foxes. Ethan flicked the ash and encouraged, "It's okay. Take it slow. Some things can't be learned in a day. Besides, I think the path and method to success aren't limited to just this one. Henry, you are honest and motivated. You can carve out a world for yourself, just the same. Having secured the cooperation with Keytech, Westford Gaming will depend on you from now on. Next week, when the accessories arrive one after another, the Westford Net Cafe can officially start business. It's time for you to show your skills." Henry felt greatly encouraged hearing this. Getting Ethan's approval made his heart surge. "Ethan, I will work hard. I definitely won't let you down." Ethan patted his shoulder. "Good, I believe in you." Just as they were speaking, Ethan's phone suddenly rang. Taking out the phone, he saw it was a call from Grace Miller, and he answered it immediately. As soon as it connected, Grace's lion-like roar came from the other end. "Hey, Smelly Ford, where the hell are you?" Ethan moved the phone a bit further away and laughed. "Did Gracie miss me? I had something to do today, just having dinner with a few friends. You've definitely been drinking, right?" Grace guessed correctly immediately. "Burp, just drank a little bit." Ethan let out a burp, looking at the bottles all over the table with a guilty conscience. Grace said with a hint of complaint, "If I knew you drank too much just by hearing your voice. You're definitely drunk." But then, her tone softened, and she asked with concern, "Where are you? Be careful on your way back. Pay attention to safety." "Forget it. I'll take a cab to pick you up." Hearing this, Ethan's heart felt warm for a moment, his nose tingled, and his eyes got moist. Okay, Gracie. Come pick me up at the company then." "Grace, I'm drinking and getting drunk all day. Wait until I see you. See how this princess deals with you." Grace hung up the phone immediately after speaking. No need to think, she had already set off. Ethan smiled, feeling kind of sweet distress. Sigh, it seems someone is going to use force to oppress a good citizen. Henry comforted him. "Ethan, take care of yourself." "Ethan, are you gloating?" Henry stifled a laugh. "No, really no." Ethan rolled his eyes at him. "You say no? Your mouth is grinning to your ears. Laugh if you want. I'll take it as jealousy." "Yes, jealousy." Henry covered his mouth and said seriously, "Ethan, I really didn't laugh. I've been professionally trained. Unless I can't hold it back." "Ha ha." Ethan immediately flicked his forehead and scolded jokingly, "Get lost. You'll understand when you have a girlfriend in the future." The two left the private room after finishing a cigarette. At the entrance of the hotel, Stella had already arranged a driver for them, an employee of Keytech, who properly sent the two back to the Westford Group. When Ethan and Henry returned to the company, the sky had turned dark. Apart from a few employees on night shift, there was no one else. As soon as he pushed open the office door, he saw Grace sitting on the sofa waiting. "Ahem, Gracie is here." Ethan coughed twice and smiled. Grace crossed her arms and snorted arrogantly. "You said you weren't drunk? Look at you. The alcohol has gone to your head. Big liar." Ethan simply pretended to be really drunk, holding his head and saying, "Ouch, my head is so dizzy." As he spoke, he took the opportunity to walk over and collapse beside her, looking dizzy and dazzled. Henry tactfully played along. "Ethan is definitely drunk. He threw up several times on the way back. Grace, you guys chat. I'll pack up my things and get off work." After speaking, Henry turned and left, closing the door behind him. After leaving the office, Henry passed by the duty staff and instructed, "Don't go knocking on Mr. Ford's door unless it's something important." Okay, Mr. Payne." The few duty staff members looked confused. Henry left leisurely. On the other side, in the office, Ethan lay paralyzed on the sofa, emitting sounds of wailing. "Ouch, why is my head so dizzy?" It hurts so much. So dizzy, I want to throw up. Grace felt bad listening to him and couldn't bear to just watch. She glared at him and complained. Drink. Let's see if you drink yourself to death. Oomph. Although she said that, she still poured a glass of warm water for Ethan and personally brought it to him. Drink some warm water. You should feel a bit better. Ethan squinted his eyes and tilted his head back, signaling her to feed him. Grace snorted snappily, sat a bit closer, supported his head, and fed him water. She saw a look of enjoyment on Ethan's face and felt both angry and amused. Was this guy faking being drunk? Come, drink up, honey. It's time for your medicine, Grace said gently, mimicking a wicked nurse or a soap opera villainess. Caught off guard, Ethan had a large mouthful of water poured into him and quickly sobered up. Cough, cough. Okay, I'm much better. I don't feel that dizzy anymore. Grace then put down the water glass, pinched Ethan's cheek with her hand, and teased, Bad guy, are you faking being drunk with me? Ethan went with the direction she pulled and fell in her arms, lying on her lap, acting shamelessly. No, I'm really drunk. Saying that, he burrowed his head into her embrace. Grace was tickled by his hair and laughed, trembling like a flower branch. She scolded jokingly. Why are you like this? Stop digging. You're like a loach. Ethan grinned. That's right, I'm a loach. You know, loaches love to drill into holes. Grace felt there was a hidden meaning in his words, but couldn't quite catch it. She spat, TCH shameless. So smelly you smell like smoke and alcohol all over. Stinks to high heaven. Ethan decided to just let go and be shameless, saying thick-facedly, if a man doesn't stink, he can't be called a stinking man. He. Cut it out, you're choking me. Grace covered her nose and mouth in disgust. But suddenly, she saw a few strands of silver-white hair near Ethan's ear and said in surprise, Oh no, Smelly Ford, you have gray hair. Ethan rubbed his temples and said indifferently, So I have them, it's normal. Doing technology and being a boss meant too many things to think about every day. It was normal to have a little premature graying. He didn't care, but a few traces of distress appeared in Grace's eyes. She pursed her small lips and whispered, You don't pay attention to rest either. Let's take a leave and go home to rest for a few days and 2 days. Money can't be earned endlessly, but you only have one body. Don't ruin your health. I heard that people who are often busy with work and stay up late are prone to becoming weak. Ethan teased with a laugh. Oh, you're worried about that so soon? Don't worry, no matter what, I can last at least half an hour. Definitely more than half an hour. Grace looked confused and asked suspiciously, What lasts half an hour? Ethan lifted his head and whispered something in her ear. Grace's cheeks instantly turned as red as an apple, bright and dripping. Bad guy, you have no shame. Her little heart thumped. Smelly Ford. All day long he just thinks about these messy things. But Smelly Ford is an adult in college now. Is it normal to have these thoughts? Oh my. Grace, what are you thinking? Are you making excuses for this bad guy? Grace shook her head repeatedly, throwing all those fantasy images out of her mind. Ethan saw her actually blushing, her face red to the ears. She was extremely cute. Gracie, come here. I'll tell you something very important. Ethan lay on her lap and beckoned, signaling her to come closer. Grace calmed her mind and asked suspiciously, What is it? Hey, come here first. I'll tell you secretly. Ethan looked serious. What? Grace lowered her head and leaned closer. Suddenly, Ethan kissed her. Their lips met. Grace's eyes went wide, and her mind instantly went blank. She could only feel the warmth from her lips, as if carrying threads of electric current. In an instant, these currents spread throughout her body. MMPH. Ethan began to seize territory, and Grace lost the city gates. In the quiet office, only the sound of their heavy breathing remained. Outside the huge floor-to-ceiling window were the bright lights of the city, which also reflected the figures of the two, as if they were in the sky above the city, echoing countless neon lights. This was a beautiful picture. After kissing for a long time, Ethan finally let her go. He smacked his lips, looking like he hadn't had enough. Grace's eyes were silky, her cheeks flushed red. She glared at him in annoyance. Detestable. You don't fight fair. You actually dare to sneak attack this princess. Ethan gave a wicked smile of success and said, So open and above board. How does that count as a sneak attack? Take this. Grace raised her small pink fist and pretended to punch his chest. Ethan hurried to block with his hands. But the next second, Grace leaned down and actively kissed him on the lips. Grace's kiss was very inexperienced. She seemed to be trying actively, yet she was cautious and very shy. Not long after, she pulled away on her own initiative, blushing as she said, That was my counterattack. All right, you've gone bad. You're starting to fight dirty too. Hee hee, but I like it. Ethan wasn't satisfied yet. He opened his arms and said, Come on, come baby, come torment me. Ravage me as much as you want. Don't worry, I won't resist. Grace pinched his ear and said shyly, Get lost. Give you an inch and you take a mile. See if I don't fix you good. After speaking, Grace began to tickle him with both hands. Ethan naturally didn't show weakness and tickled her back. Ethan turned into a flower thief, laughing wickedly. Hee hee, little lady, let's see where you can run. Don't put up futile resistance. The two immediately wrestled into a ball, rolling around on the sofa. 2 minutes later, Grace was straddling Ethan, pinning his wrist with one hand, performing a standard arrest and control posture. Ethan's face was buried in the sofa. Small fry, still want to fight me? Grace raised her chin, like a victorious general. Let go. You win. Ethan quickly tapped the sofa. Seeing him beg for mercy, Grace let him go and sat on the sofa to rest. Ethan, let's take a leave and go home in 2 days. You rest well for a few days too. Don't be so tired. Hearing the concern in her words, Ethan felt warm in his heart and responded, Okay, let's go home the day after tomorrow. I've got the gifts ready. Grace patted his head and smiled. That's a good boy. Ethan, treating me like a kid? Take this. Ethan pretended to tickle her. Grace jumped up from the sofa and ran out quickly. Nye, come catch me. Grace made a funny face at him. Ethan chased out shouting, I'm coming to catch you. When I find you, just let me hee hee hee. The two ran out of the office playfully. Seeing the staff on duty, Ethan quickly restored a serious expression, clasped his hands behind his back, and greeted, Ahem, keep working, carry on. Grace, however, used this opportunity to sneak attack and ran away first. 2 days later morning, in the Mill residential compound, George Miller returned from outside with a birdcage in one hand and bags of groceries in the other. His steps were light, a smile on his face, occasionally teasing the thrush in the birdcage. An old man walked towards him at the gate. Director Miller, what's the happy occasion today? Look how happy you are. Oh, nothing much. My Gracie is coming back today. She's been away at college for so long. It's rare for her to come back. Adding a few dishes for lunch today. George lifted the groceries in his hand. Oh wow, big shrimp too. You really spare no expense. The old man said enviously. Ordinary worker families were doing well to eat meat occasionally, let alone expensive river food or seafood. It was rare to see except during holidays. The kid rarely comes back. Got to feed her something good, George said cheerfully. While the two were chatting, Lily Miller shouted from downstairs, Honey, bring the groceries back to prep. Hey, coming. George responded and bid farewell to the old man. See, the kid isn't coming back until noon, but her mom started cleaning early in the morning and rushed me to buy groceries. Old Lou, I'm going back first. Shalati. George hurried home with his things. Back home, he saw his wife already tidying up the kitchen. Grace and the others won't be home until noon, and they're only staying for a few days. No need to make it like New Year's. George shook his head and smiled, placing the vegetables on the table. You don't feel bad for my daughter, but I do. Who knows if she eats well at school? Making something she likes today. All right, did you buy the shrimp Ethan likes? That child Ethan loves garlic butter shrimp. This dish takes some effort. I have to prep the shrimp in advance. Lily asked without turning her head while busy. George hung up the birdcage and smiled in response. Bought it. Whatever the wife ordered, I bought it all back. All right then, help me trim the vegetables. Lily arranged work directly. George shook his head with a bitter smile, but he didn't dare say no. In the mill, he was a leader, but back home, the wife was the leader. Okay, no problem. George rolled up his sleeves and started trimming vegetables at the table. Lily passed him a basket and asked, How do you think Grace and Ethan are doing with their dating? With a temper like Grace's, will she quarrel with Ethan? There was some worry in her tone. George rolled his eyes at her and said, When these two kids weren't dating, you worried they wouldn't get together. Now that they are together, you worry if they get along well. You worry too much in this life. The two kids grew up making noise together. It'll be fine. Lily thought for a moment and said, That's true, but Grace's temper is a bit wild. She still needs to be restrained. A girl should act like a girl. George laughed. A leopard can't change its spots. The child is already so big. Don't think about it. Besides, Ethan has a gentle temper. I think they're a good match. Don't worry so much. Lily hesitated, then said, All right. But when they come back, I have to observe secretly. George was startled. Secretly? Observe? Time flew by, approaching noon. George was watching TV in the living room when there was a knock on the door. "Mom, Dad, we're back," Grace's voice sounded from outside. George quickly put down the remote control and went to open the door. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Grace and Ethan standing at the door, carrying bags large and small. "Grace, Ethan, you're back. Quick, come in." George beamed with joy seeing the two. "Dad, Ethan and I bought you gifts." Grace entered the house, showing the gift bags in her hand. George shook his head and smiled. "It's good enough that you're back. Why buy so many things? Such a waste of money." "Uncle George, it's appropriate. Just a few gifts, nothing too expensive." Ethan smiled. Grace stuck out her pink tongue and said playfully, "Dad, Ethan picked and bought all of these personally." George looked at the various bags on the table suspiciously. Ethan casually opened one of the gift bags, took out a pair of shiny leather shoes, handed them to George, and smiled. "Here, Uncle George, try them on, see if they fit." George saw at a glance that these leather shoes were not ordinary goods and clicked his tongue. "My heavens, these shoes must cost a lot, right?" "Oh, not much." Ethan played it down. How much is not much?" George pressed. Ethan scratched his head. Just around $600 like that." "George, what? 600? George Miller was a bit stunned. A single pair of leather shoes cost that much. What he was wearing on his feet wasn't shoes. It was a regular family's expenses for several months. Ethan, this gift is too expensive." George wanted to put the shoes back. Ethan stopped him and smiled. "Uncle George, just accept it with peace of mind. Bought is bought. How can we return it?" George hesitated for a moment, then had to agree. "All right, then I thank you." This was the most expensive gift he had ever received. But then Ethan successively took out other gifts. High-end cigarettes, liquor, suits, a watch, and cosmetics and jewelry for Lily Miller. George was dazzled and dumbfounded. George was completely dumbfounded. It took him a long while to recover, and he asked in astonishment, "My heavens, Ethan, did you win the Powerball? Where did you get so much money?" Ethan replied, casually, "Oh, the company business has been okay recently, made a little bit. Uncle George, I'll help you move this to the side first." George watched Ethan diligently packing things, looking dazed. "Made a little bit? I think it's more than a little bit. These gifts were worth at least $7,000 or $8,000. Such generosity, one couldn't pull it off without having hundreds of thousands or even millions." How old was Ethan now to be able to earn so much money? Truly unbelievable. After a while, Lily came out of the kitchen wearing an apron and greeted, "Ethan, Grace, you're back. Sit down for a bit. I'm cooking. It's all your favorites. By the way, Ethan, your parents called and said they'd be back by noon. They took the day off today, too." Ethan looked up and smiled in response. "Hey, Aunt Lily, I know, I call my dad." After packing up the gifts, Grace pulled Ethan to sit on the sofa in the living room and whispered in his ear, "Smelly Ford, will Uncle and Auntie really like the gifts I bought?" Coming back this time, Grace used her own pocket money to prepare gifts for Ethan's parents, too, but she was always worried the gifts wouldn't be to their liking. Ethan rolled his eyes and said seriously, "Yes, they might not like them." "Huh, then what to do?" Grace's eyes widened. She had prepared 2 handcrafted items. In other words, 2 small ornaments she made herself. "I have a suggestion for you. You can change the gift. They will definitely like it." Ethan smiled. "What gift? Say it, say it." Grace grabbed his arm and chased for an answer. "Upgrade them to grandparents," Ethan said with a straight face. Grace's cheeks blushed. She glared at him. "Annoying. I see your skin is itching again." Saying that, she punched him in the chest. This scene happened to be seen by George. He immediately kept a straight face and said, "What are you doing? A girl acting like that, no propriety." Relying on his father-in-law's prestige, Ethan grinned and said, Yes, no propriety." Then he smugly made a funny face at Grace secretly. This made Grace explode with anger. "Fine, you get smug because my dad is here, tail wagging up to the sky. If you'll get yours tonight." After speaking, Grace secretly reached out and pinched his waist. "Ow!" Ethan cried out in pain, almost jumping up. "What's wrong, Ethan?" George asked suspiciously. "Ahem, nothing. I was just imitating Bruce Lee." Ethan bared his teeth, enduring the pain. George put down the teacup in his hand and asked kindly and amiably, "Ethan, are you used to school recently? How are your studies?" Ethan took out a Parliament cigarette and handed one to George, responding, "Pretty used to it. Grace and I signed up for the drama club and joined the student council. The classmates are very enthusiastic. I can keep up with studies, won't fail." George smiled with relief. "Ah, that's good. You two going to college together, you can take care of each other and also supervise each other's studies." I'm much more relieved. He lit the cigarette and continued to ask, "By the way, Ethan, is your computer repair shop business that good?" Currently, the rest of the family's understanding of Ethan's business situation was still stuck on opening a computer repair shop. Also, because Ethan rarely talked about work. Mainly, he didn't want the elders to worry. Sometimes concern leads to chaos, so Ethan tried to avoid talking business with him. Ethan thought for a moment. It's okay. I open a branch. Business is a bit better than before. George was startled and asked in surprise, "What? Open a branch so soon?" "Not bad, Ethan, but I still have to remind you. In business, take it slow. Emphasize let things come naturally. You can't rush. If you take too big a step, it's easy to tear something." Then George gave Ethan a business guidance class, from store management to service quality, and even talked about life philosophy. Ethan could only keep a smiling face the whole time, occasionally nodding to show agreement, but he actually felt helpless inside. People of George's generation had stayed in the workplace for too long, especially in state-owned enterprises or mills. Their concept of doing business was different from young people. They sought stability and slowness. But in modern business theory, speed is actually the magic weapon for winning. Product iteration must be fast, logistics fast, sales fast, etc. Every link must be fast. After determining the business model, one must immediately stake out territory, rapidly increase market share, and directly crush potential competitors in the cradle. For example, future e-commerce, bike sharing, games, and other new industries. Being slow would mean being overtaken by other competitors on the curve. So, doing business still relies on connections. I know some leaders in the district. When your business gets a bit bigger, I'll introduce you. Maybe it will help you. George talked with fervor. Yes. I'll need Uncle George to look out for me in the future. Come, Uncle, drink some tea first. Ethan stood up and poured tea for him, his face full of smiles. No choice. This was his future father-in-law. Even if he didn't want to listen, he had to sit and listen properly. If he refuted, he might end up with an impression of not knowing how to ask for advice humbly. George laughed with relief, took a sip of tea, and suddenly felt a sense of accomplishment like an old father. Ethan, I watched you grow up. I know your brain is flexible and you're willing to work. You will definitely be able to build a great career in the future. Earning $1 million a year isn't a dream. Ethan twitched the corner of his mouth. Earning $1 million a year? Wouldn't that be a regression in income? Take it slow. Take it slow, Ethan echoed. Suddenly, George's phone rang. He picked it up to look, and a look of excitement appeared on his face. Hey, it's your Uncle Lawrence's call. George said happily and answered immediately. Hello, Director Brooks. I'm at home. Everyone is here. Everyone is here. Frank is getting ready to come back too. By the way, perfect timing. Ethan and Grace are both home, cooking right now. What? You're coming over? That's great. Welcome, extremely welcome. Ethan listened from the side, stunned. Uncle Lawrence is coming over now. Although Ethan and Luke Brooks were currently rivals in love, his relationship with Luke's father, Lawrence Brooks, was very good. Back when Lawrence was still the factory director at the steel mill, he took good care of George and Frank Ford. Later, before Lawrence stepped down to go into business, he promoted George and pulled Frank Ford up along the way. So speaking of it, Lawrence actually had kindness towards the Ford family. The three families lived in the same compound and would visit each other during holidays, chatting about daily life. Lawrence would always bring out snacks for the children. Ethan had even received a gift from Lawrence for his birthday when he was little, a set of calligraphy copybooks and a fountain pen. In Ethan's heart, he still respected this serious but amiable elder. Grace, however, slapped her forehead and sighed to the sky. What? Uncle Lawrence is coming? Is that guy Luke Brooks coming too? OMG, that guy's so annoying. George hung up the phone and said happily, Yes, Luke and the director are coming together. They've already set off. They're on the way. Dad, I want to transfer schools. In the car, Luke Brooks spoke cautiously to his father, Lawrence Brooks. Lawrence was unsmiling. He just glanced at him and didn't speak. But this single glance made Luke's heart race with fear. Since childhood, the person he feared most was his father. When he was young, the discipline was strict, and he ate plenty of bamboo stew with pork, whippings. After growing up, Lawrence was busy with work and had no time to attend to him, so he actually relaxed a lot. The reason he proposed changing schools was because he was already famous at Illinois Tech. Last time he tried to fix Ethan, he ended up falling into the trap himself, losing immense face in front of many students. His post on the school forum had blown up. He had no face to continue studying at the school. It was social suicide. Dad, Luke was just about to continue when he was interrupted by Lawrence raising his hand. What reason is there to transfer? Lawrence stared at him, his eyes behind his glasses giving off great pressure. I feel the school isn't suitable. Yeah, not quite suitable. Luke hemmed and hawed, trying to gloss it over. Lawrence glared at him and said, "Don't mess around. Illinois Tech is the best university in the city, in the state. If you don't go to this school, where are you planning to go? Let me tell you, now that you're back, settle down and study hard. Don't be lackadaisical like you were abroad." The father and son's conversation didn't exceed 3 sentences before greeting Luke were lectures and scolding. Usually, the father and son spoke little because Luke didn't want to talk to his father, as every conversation started with a lecture and ended with a silence. Luke gave a bitter smile, daring not to speak the real reason, so he could only respond with silence and dared not continue to fight for it. Lawrence looked out the window at the street. The street scene outside was both familiar and strange. Not having seen it for 5 or 6 years, the streets had changed a lot, with many new buildings added. The window reflected his graying hair. Only a few years had passed, but he seemed to have aged 10 years or more. He couldn't help but sigh secretly in his heart. Truly, things had changed and people had changed. "Look, I heard that the Ford family's son, Ethan, was the state valedictorian this year. He goes to the same school as you. Have you met?" Lawrence suddenly turned his head and asked. At the mention of Ethan, Luke felt anger rising from nowhere. He curled his lip and said, "Met him." Lawrence kept a straight face and said, "You met him and didn't invite him to sit at home? Ethan is so successful now, state valedictorian. Valedictorian. With so many examinees every year, to be number 1 is not ordinarily amazing. You learn more from Ethan." Luke replied impatiently, perfunctorily, Yes, Dad, I know. Study hard, make progress every day. Look at your attitude now. You always treat my words like wind past your ears. If you really have ability, never mind being the state valedictorian, show me you can test into the top 10,000. Lawrence scolded. Luke pulled a long face, not daring to make a sound. If he continued to talk back, they would probably start arguing again. Before long, the car drove into the mill residential compound. The male secretary driving in front reminded, "Boss, we've arrived at the mill compound. Which building are we going to?" "Go to building 7, Lawrence replied. "Yes," Secretary Tim responded. The car then stopped steadily downstairs. Lawrence got out of the car and said to the secretary, "Tim, help carry the things up. Bring all the gifts." "Yes, boss." Secretary Tim nodded repeatedly. Lawrence then saw Luke still sitting in the car, glared at him, and shouted, "What are you doing staring in the car? Come down and help move the gifts." Okay, Luke said weakly. The father and son and Secretary Tim went upstairs with the gifts and walked straight to the Miller family's door, knocking. After a while, the door opened. The person opening the door was none other than Ethan. "Haha, Uncle Lawrence, hello. Long time no see. Missed you very much." Ethan greeted very happily and quickly welcomed them in. "Hi, yes. Ethan, haven't seen you for a few years. You've grown so much taller. You're getting more and more handsome." Lawrence laughed kindly and heaped praise on Ethan. Luke behind him rolled his eyes, repeatedly listening to this, feeling even a bit jealous in his heart. At this moment, the others in the house, George, Frank Ford, and the other elders came out to welcome and greet them. "Director Brooks, hello." George went over happily to give a hug. "George, Frank, good to see you, good to see you." Lawrence laughed. "Whatever happens today, you're not going home until you're drunk. If you get drunk, I have plenty of rooms here." George said seriously. Okay, I'm happy today. I'll definitely keep you company to the end." "Huh," Lawrence said heartily. Old friends hadn't seen each other for a long time and had endless things to say. George pulled Lawrence's hand and went to the living room to chat warmly. The scene filled with bursts of laughter. After a while, Lawrence suddenly turned his head to look at Luke, seeing Luke sitting aside playing with his phone, and scolded, "Luke, why didn't you say hello to your Uncle George and Uncle Frank when you entered? How'd I usually teach you? How old are you? Do I still have to tell you this?" Luke was speechless. He had clearly said hello just now. His father just hadn't heard it. He was still waiting to see Grace and didn't want to go into the pile of elders. But under Lawrence's majestic gaze, he had to stand up sheepishly and greet them again. "Hello, Uncle George, Uncle Frank. Come eat more fruit. My dad and I bought it at the supermarket. It's fresh." Luke took out 2 tangerines from a fruit bag and handed them over respectively. But there was already plenty of fruit in front of George and Frank Ford. "Oh good, this child is really well behaved." George took the fruit and praised. Frank Ford smiled. "Mainly he's handsome, has the director's style." Lawrence rolled his eyes at the two and teased. "You too, just putting a high hat on me, saying nice things. This kid of mine, I'm afraid he won't amount to anything without experiencing society for a few years." Luke was looked down upon by his father in public and felt very uncomfortable, but he could only endure it silently, walking alone to the side to continue playing Snake. At this moment, Ethan brought tea, coffee, and handed it to the three elders respectively, smiling. Uncle Lawrence, taste how this coffee is. Premium cool no peobidi. You love coffee and no coffee. Please help evaluate it. These words were like a spring breeze, praising the person while throwing out a topic. Lawrence lifted the cup, smelled it first, then took a sip. Suddenly, a look of surprise appeared, and he let out a soft sound of wonder. This doesn't seem like ordinary Kona, right? The taste is so clean, the beans must have been perfectly roasted, top grade. At least a boutique roaster's masterpiece. Ethan, this coffee isn't cheap, right? Ethan smiled slightly, not mentioning the price, but turned to praise. Uncle Lawrence is really amazing. Tasted it right away. Correct. This is a boutique roaster's masterpiece. It seems I'll have to learn properly from Uncle Lawrence in the future. After speaking, Ethan moved a chair to sit next to them, distributing cigarettes along the way, handing out parliaments. Lawrence took in every one of Ethan's actions. His behavior and conversation were simply completely different from when he was a child. Not seeing him for these years, he didn't expect Ethan to be so familiar with dealing with people and things. It made one look at him with new eyes. Lawrence was gratified, but while gratified, he felt his own son was too far behind and couldn't help but feel some resentment that iron couldn't become steel. He turned his head to look at Luke on the side, found Luke was still playing Snake, and scolded, "Luke, what is the matter with you? All day long you just know how to play games. Really becoming more and more outrageous. Luke, Omega." "It's over. Dad is angry. Going to get lectured again." Luke pulled a long face, helplessly put away his phone, and responded, Okay, I won't play, all right? I'll go eat some fruit." He didn't want to talk to Lawrence at all. The more he spoke, the more he got scolded. He went to grab a tangerine and silently peeled it on the side. Ethan looked back at him, took a plate of peanuts, and handed it to him, smiling. "Have some peanuts. You can peel them a bit slower. If you can, peel a few more. They go well with liquor." Luke snorted, not wanting to accept his kindness. "Dream on. Peel them yourself if you want to eat. Truly treating good intentions as a donkey's liver and lungs. Then play by yourself." Ethan shook his head. Towards Luke, he actually had no malice. After all, they were friends who grew up together, and he was grateful to Lawrence in his heart. With respect, he sort of loved the tree and loved the branch. At this moment, Grace came out of the room. She had put on simple makeup, dressed up a bit, and tied a ponytail. Pure and cute. "Hello, Uncle Lawrence." Grace ran over obediently to greet him. Seeing Grace, Lawrence's eyes lit up and he praised, "Haha, it's Grace. A girl changes 18 times as she grows, getting more and more beautiful. George, your daughter has truly blossomed into a great beauty." Luke jumped up from the chair and ran to hand Grace a tangerine. "Sister Grace, have a tangerine." "Humph, don't want it. Keep it for yourself." Grace didn't care for him much, rolled her eyes at him, and sat straight next to Ethan. Grace even affectionately linked arms with Ethan, revealing a sweet smile. Seeing this, Luke felt as if a knife had been inserted into his heart. "Pain. Too much pain." Lawrence asked in surprise. This. "Grace, are you and Ethan dating?" He, "Yes, Uncle Lawrence, we are together." Grace admitted openly and generously. Ethan said modestly, "Oh, speaking of which, it's my good fortune. We'll only be close to the water to get the moon first. I kidnapped Gracie all at once." Lawrence laughed heartily. Good. "George, Frank, now you solved a big worry in your hearts together. Closer than close. Very good. Ethan, this child has promise and ambition. He brought honor to our mill. He tested as the state valedictorian. His future is definitely boundless. Grace will enjoy blessings following him." Frank Ford was praised until his face glowed, his heart blooming with joy. Everyone hopes their children have promise and are recognized by others. Parents are definitely happy. Where? Ethan still has a lot to learn. If you praise him like this, his tail will wag up to the sky later. I think if there's time, he still has to learn more from the director to gain some insight. Frank said from the bottom of his heart. No matter what business one does, it's easier to learn and progress if someone guides you. No problem. If Ethan is willing to come help me, I am of course happy. Lawrence waved his big hand, speaking boldly. Ethan smiled slightly, not declining immediately. "When I'm free, I will definitely go to Uncle Lawrence's to learn. Sometimes, although honesty and frankness are virtues, one must also consider the occasion. When chatting with elders, don't rush to refuse. If you're not careful, you might end up with an impression of not knowing how to humbly ask for advice." Several people chatted warmly in the living room. Lily and Mary Ford were busy with lunch in the kitchen. Only Luke was alone in the corner, lonely eating a sour tangerine. He couldn't integrate into this occasion and appeared particularly cold in the corner. So sour. Luke ate a segment of tangerine, his nose and brows wrinkling from the sourness. But when he saw Grace pick a grape and hand-feed it to Ethan, the two being all lovey-dovey, his heart felt even more sour. Fuck, so sour. Luke felt like he had eaten a giant lemon. After a while, Mary brought out dishes and called everyone to eat. At the dinner table, everyone took their seats. Lawrence nudged Luke with his elbow and glared at him, but the latter looked confused, having no idea what to do. What's wrong, Dad? Is something the matter? Luke asked with a face full of doubt. Lawrence sighed in disappointment. Luke, why don't you understand anything? Bring the liquor up. Okay. Luke turned and brought up a bottle of liquor, then placed it in front of Lawrence, and then started eating food on his own. Lawrence nudged him again and gave him a look. Dad, what for? Luke stopped his chopsticks, asking in extreme confusion. Lawrence slapped his forehead, resenting that iron failed to become steel. Don't just care about eating yourself. Hurry up and pour wine for your Uncle George and Uncle Frank. How could his son not even know the most basic table manners? Truly too disappointing. Bringing the liquor up and waiting for his old man to open it for him? Truly outrageous. Forget it, can't blame him. Being abroad for so long, he learned nothing. At this moment, Ethan brought over the Macallan 18 and smiled. No need to trouble Luke, I'll do it. Uncle Lawrence, taste this Macallan 18, see if it suits your taste. Saying that, Ethan poured liquor for the elders one by one. Lawrence watched it all, feeling increasingly emotional in his heart. If his son had half of Ethan's sensibility, it would be good. He turned his head to look at the dazed Luke again and couldn't help shaking his head. Come, don't just stand there, move your chopsticks, don't be polite. Director, I'll toast you first. George raised his glass to invite. Everyone started eating lively. Grace obediently put food on the elders' plates. After serving Lawrence, according to the order, it should be Luke's turn next. Grace picked up a chicken drumstick. Luke held up his bowl with extreme anticipation and handed it over. Thank you, Sister Grace. Wow, it's a drumstick. She is really too good to me. To eat food picked personally by Sister Grace, this trip was not in vain. This was the first time, Sister Grace, I will eat it properly. But the next moment, Grace picked up the drumstick and bypassed him directly, putting the drumstick into Ethan's bowl. Boom! Luke was struck by lightning and stood frozen on the spot. Oh no, my drumstick! My love, what was lost was not a drumstick, it was Grace's love. Does God treat me, the chosen one, like this? He saw Grace even peeled a shrimp for Ethan personally and fed it into Ethan's mouth. How is it? Smelly forward, is it tasty? Grace smiled like a flower, a sweet smile, her gaze towards Ethan carrying threads of affection. Splurt! This scene was like a knife inserting directly into Luke's heart. This knife really pierced the heart. Instantly, Luke felt the food on the table wasn't fragrant at all. Luke poured himself a glass of liquor and drank it all with his head back. Glug, glug, glug. Bitter wine enters the throat, pain in the heart. But the next moment, the high-proof liquor immediately taught him a lesson. The spicy liquor entered his mouth suddenly, causing him to cough repeatedly, choking until tears came out. Lawrence turned his head and glared at him, scolding, Child, why drink so fast? Truly rude. Luke didn't dare make a sound after being scolded, so he had to wipe away his tears silently. After the meal was finished, the elders slowly chatted and drank. Grace pulled Ethan downstairs to take a walk and digest food. Luke drank until his face was red and his eyes were blurry, but he didn't want to stay at the dinner table. He made an excuse to slip away and followed Grace downstairs. Downstairs, seeing the two being affectionate in front, the alcohol went to Luke's head, and he shouted loudly, Ethan Ford, stand right there. Ethan heard the voice, stopped his steps, and looked back in surprise. What, something up? Luke ran in front of the two, let out a hiccup, and stared at Ethan fiercely. Ethan, I want to duel you. One-on-one. Alcohol emboldens a coward. He had wanted to duel Ethan for a long time. In the land of the rising sun where he lived, if two boys liked the same girl, they would duel for this girl. Although he had never experienced it or seen it, but TV dramas all acted like this. Ethan, did you hear me? I want to duel you. Luke stared at him tightly and shouted. But Ethan just smiled and didn't speak. What? Are you afraid? Chicken. Luke used agitation tactics disdainfully. Ethan shook his head and said, Luke, you're drunk. I'm not drunk. Luke hiccuped and insisted. Come on, Ethan, don't let me look down on you. He had learned boxing in Japan. Although he had never practiced in actual combat, he really wanted to practice on Ethan. Only for Grace, the true love in his heart. Just like in a manga, have you ever risked your life for someone in this lifetime? He could confirm without hesitation, yes, only Grace. Ethan said calmly, duels and stuff. Two main character syndrome. I refuse. What did you say? You refuse. You actually dare to refuse. Ethan, you coward. Why does someone like you get to stay by Grace's side? Luke stepped forward angrily and grabbed Ethan's collar, his eyes red. Grace was startled and quickly tried to pull him away, questioning, Luke, are you crazy? What are you doing? Let go quickly. But Luke didn't let go. Instead, he stared at Ethan deadly, looking as if he wouldn't let go unless Ethan agreed. Rumble. Thunder roared inside the thick dark clouds in the sky. Lightning flashed across the horizon, and in an instant, heavy rain began to fall. Ethan stood in the rain, unmoved. Suddenly he shook his head and sighed. You absolutely have to have a fight? Yes, a fight. Luke nodded very surely. But as soon as his voice fell, bam, Ethan suddenly attacked first with a low kick. This. Luke's face changed color abruptly. He opened his mouth, wanting to scream, but couldn't make a sound, slowly curling up on the ground like a cooked shrimp. You shameless, unfair, actually sneaking attack on me. Luke pointed at Ethan angrily. Ethan straightened his clothes and said seriously, Luke, you didn't say no sneak attacks. You couldn't beat me when we were kids, and it's the same now. I'll fight you. Luke shouted angrily, crawled up, and grabbed Ethan's clothes. His fist was about to greet Ethan's face. All boxing techniques were thrown to the back of his mind after being enraged by Ethan. But Ethan was already prepared. He dodged directly, and then used the judo techniques Grace taught him to give him a shoulder throw. Thud! Luke was thrown to the ground, and then it was a one-sided beatdown. Seeing this, Grace secretly gave Ethan a thumbs up. Smelly Ford. Well done. Indeed, you didn't waste this princess's painstaking efforts. The rain poured down. The two wrestled on the ground, quickly attracting the onlookers of the neighbors. Grace pretended to mediate. Stop quickly. Don't fight anymore. On the scene, Ethan was suppressing Luke and beating him. She couldn't be bothered to help. 2 against 1. That wouldn't be honorable. Not long after, Luke was firmly locked by Ethan, unable to move until he lost his strength. Ethan then let him go and stood up from the ground. At this time, he was soaked all over and covered in mud. All right, Luke, you vented enough anger, right? Ethan chuckled lightly. He really didn't get serious in this fight. He knew Luke was holding back anger in his heart, so he treated it as letting him vent. Luke gasped for large breaths, his face bruised purple and blue. Ethan, you bastard. You bastard are the one taking anger out on me, right? I'll fight you, fight. Luke wanted to stand up, but he didn't even have the strength to stand. Ethan looked down at him from above and said calmly, Luke, recognize reality. Don't always live in your own fantasy world. Grace Miller, in this life, is contracted by me. She's mine. No one can take her away, and neither can you. Grace stepped forward to take Ethan's arm, glared at Luke, and said, Luke, be rational. I like Ethan. Can you stop pestering me? Lying on the ground, hearing Grace's words, Luke was struck by lightning and froze. I like Ethan. Like Ethan. Is Ethan. This sentence echoed constantly in his mind. At this moment, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. So, it was all wishful thinking on his part. His tears mixed with the rain slid down his cheeks. He could no longer distinguish which were tears and which was rain. He gave a bitter smile, letting the cold rain hit his face. Suddenly, a hand appeared in his line of sight. He looked over in bewilderment. It was Ethan. It was the hand Ethan extended. Get up, don't lie there. Ethan wiped the rain off with his sleeve and smiled at him. Luke gritted his teeth but still reached out his hand and was pulled up by Ethan. Ethan, I don't need you to pretend to be kind. Luke lowered his head and said in a low voice. After speaking, he kept his head down, turned, and left without looking at Ethan or Grace. In the heavy rain, Luke's solitary back appeared so lonely. Ethan smiled helplessly. This guy, his temper is really stubborn. He could understand Luke's mood, but on a matter of Grace, there was no room for negotiation. Apart from this point, he and Luke had no other conflicts of interest or grudges. Ethan shook his head, hoping this fight could untie the knot in Luke's heart and beat him sober. After all, people can't bury their heads in the sand like ostriches. Smelly Ford, are you okay? You didn't get hurt, right? Grace asked with concern. No, I'm totally fine. Luke couldn't beat me since childhood, huh? Ethan laughed. Grace curled her lips and said, that guy's really something, so stubborn. If it weren't for Uncle Lawrence's face, I wouldn't bother with him. Ethan wiped the rain off, looked in the direction Luke left, and said calmly, he just has a severe case of main character syndrome, always living in his own world, closing himself off, entertaining himself. From another angle, he is quite pitiful, but choosing me as an opponent, he can only blame his own bad luck. Pitiful people must have something hateful about them. That's the logic, right? Grace held his hand and said with distress, "Look at you, all dirty. Hurry back and change clothes. Be careful not to catch a cold." "Okay, let's go back." Ethan nodded. The two returned upstairs. Several elders were still drinking. Seeing Ethan come back dirty all over, they asked a few questions in surprise. Ethan made up a random excuse and ducked back into his room to get clothes for a shower. After washing up, Ethan returned to the room and saw Grace looking for something. "Gracie, what are you looking for?" Ethan asked with a smile while wiping his wet hair. "Where's your hairdryer?" "My hair is wet too. I want to dry it." Grace puffed out her cheeks helplessly. "Inside the cabinet. I'll help you dry it." Ethan dug out the hairdryer from the cabinet. Worried about Ethan catching a cold, Grace said stubbornly, "No, I'll help you dry yours first. Don't worry, I'm very good at blowing. It'll be dry in a jiffy." "Ethan, what kind of suggestive language is this?" "Ahem, better let me blow dry yours first." Ethan plugged in the hairdryer and beckoned to her. "Come here, I'll blow for you." Grace glared at him and said, "Cut the crap. I said, I'll blow dry yours first. Come here obediently." She rubbed her fingers, cracking her knuckles. "Ethan, if you don't listen, don't blame this princess for getting hard." "What? You want to get hard? Let's see whose is harder." Ethan looked righteous and unyielding. But the next second, Grace walked over and put him directly into a death headlock, pinning him against the wardrobe. "Ethan, you're hard. You're the hardest. High and hard." Grace burst out laughing and let him go. "All right, stop messing around. Sit down nicely." The two looked at each other and smiled. Every bit of sweetness was hidden in the details of life. Ethan sat by the bed, and Grace used the hairdryer to help him dry his hair. "Ethan, do you have any plans for winter break?" Grace asked casually. Ethan was startled. "Winter break? School just started not long ago, and you're thinking about what to do for winter break." "I was just asking casually." Grace curled her lips. Maybe I'll rest at home during winter break. It's still early, I haven't planned yet." Ethan smiled. Grace paused and asked, "Do you have nothing you want to do? Like things you want to do in this life? Besides, it's not like you don't have the capital." "There are too many things I want to do in this life. I can't finish listing them," Ethan said. Like, I want to go see the ocean with you, want to go to the prairie in the north with you, want to stroll on the streets of Paris with you, drink coffee under the Eiffel Tower, and many, many more." Ethan turned his head to look at her. Grace's cheeks blushed, and she said shyly, "Why are they all with me? Don't you have anything you want to do yourself?" Ethan held her hand and smiled. "Because in this life, my life is all about you. I want to stand on the mountaintop only because I want to share the scenery of the mountaintop with you. Without you, these things would have no meaning." Grace's heart shook, and her eyes couldn't help but fill with happy tears. She laughed. You just know how to coax me. But I am really happy. Turn your head back. I'll dry your hair." The room quieted down, with only the roar of the hairdryer. Everything was so calm and natural. After a while, Grace turned off the hairdryer, patted his shoulder, and smiled. "All right, done drying. Comfortable. How is my technique?" Ethan looked back and rolled his eyes at her. "Is there technique involved in drying hair?" "Of course, I specially styled it for you. Could you do that yourself?" Grace said proudly. Ethan touched his head. She really had blown it into a trendy fringe. Okay, you win. Now it's my turn to blow dry yours." Ethan stood up, and the two switched places. Grace's beautiful black hair seemed to have grown a bit longer, almost reaching her waist. "Gracie, my turn to ask you. Do you have anything you want to do in this life?" Ethan asked back. Grace smiled faintly, her eyes curving into cute crescents. "Not telling you." "Ethan." "Grace, that's too unfair. What are you going to do about it?" "Got a problem." "Ahem, no problem." "If you have a problem, hold it in." "What if I can't hold it in?" "Then release it, I don't mind." Crackle, crackle. "Ahem, I'd better hold it in." "Huh." The laughter and chat of the two in the room echoed the drizzling autumn rain outside the window, soaking into the deep autumn night. Grace washed up and watched TV on the living room sofa. Lily had just taken care of the dead-drunk George and came out of the room. She saw Grace watching TV alone in the living room. "Grace, aren't you going to play with Ethan?" She sat down next to her and asked. "It's raining. I don't want to go out and get blown by wind and rain." Grace replied casually. Lily thought for a moment and asked, "Grace, how are you and Ethan getting along recently?" "Pretty good, Mom. Why do you ask this suddenly?" Grace looked at her suspiciously. "Oh, nothing, I'm just asking. As long as you get along well. But some things, as someone who's been there, Mom still wants to talk to you properly." Lily said seriously. What things?" Grace was startled, guessing in her heart, is it that thing? Ah. Grace blushed and quickly said, Mom, not yet, haven't done that. Hmm? What thing? I mean dating. The most important thing is mutual tolerance and understanding. What thing are you talking about? Lily asked. Grace smiled awkwardly. No, nothing. I thought. Never mind. Lily looked at her lovingly, squeezed her hand, and smiled. Mom is very happy to see you two come together. I watch both of you grow up. As long as you are happy, I am relieved. Mom knows you have an impatient temper. When you were little, your dad was afraid you'd get bullied and sent you to learn judo, raising you to be carefree and strong-willed. Mom doesn't expect you to change anything, just hopes you won't be so rough in doing things in the future. Have more patience, more tolerance. Most importantly, two people together must understand each other, know what the other thinks and needs in their heart. This is very important. Understanding these principles, then you count as grown up. Grace smiled reassuringly. Mom, I know. You can rest assured. Lily nodded and smiled. All right then. Don't watch too late. Rest early. Okay. Grace responded. After Lily returned to the room, Grace leaned on the sofa, looking at the ceiling, suddenly a bit lost in thought. Recalling her mother's words in her mind, there seemed to be another layer of meaning. Her thoughts were messy, and she couldn't watch TV anymore, so she simply got up and went back to her room. In the room, Grace sat at the desk and took out a transparent glass jar from the bottom drawer. Inside the glass jar were stars folded from paper of various colors. She opened the glass jar, casually took out a star from inside, and unfolded it. There was a sentence written on it. I want to go to the north to see snow. She smiled sweetly and immediately pulled out a pen to add a few words on the paper. I want to go to the north to see snow with Smelly Ford. In her future life, she probably couldn't do without that bad guy Smelly Ford. Originally, these abandoned and sealed wishes, thoughts, and things she wanted to do only had meaning with another person. Thinking this, Grace poured all the origami from the jar, unfolded them one by one, and added new text to each. Finally, she folded them back into little stars one by one and put them back into the wish jar, wiping the dust off the jar. After doing all this, it was already late at night. Grace picked up the glass jar and shook it in front of the desk lamp. The colorful little stars inside seemed to be glowing too. It's so nice. They are so beautiful. I want to complete them with Smelly Ford in the future, leaving no regrets in life. Thinking about it, she felt what a wonderful thing this was. Grace put down the jar, suddenly feeling something was missing. Suddenly a white light flashed through her mind. She immediately pulled out a colored sticky note and started writing on the paper with a pen. I want to become an outstanding architectural designer and design a house to live in with Smelly Ford. She finished writing, folded the sticky note into a new little star, smiled with satisfaction, and put it into the glass jar.